Chapter 523. The leader of the Black Dragon Pool, Lord Black Dragon, had already disappeared. Usually, the three heavenly deities were in charge of the entire Black Dragon Pool. Among the three heavenly deities, only Xionghe possessed a low-quality heavenly divine artifact. The other two did not possess any heavenly divine artifacts at all. Usually, Meiji and Lu Su would also envy Xionghe for possessing a heavenly divine artifact. In the eyes of everyone in the Black Dragon Pool, heavenly divine artifacts were indestructible. However, today, before the eyes of several 100,000 people, that indestructible low-quality, heavenly divine artifact Spiked Club Mountain Crusher was sliced in half by that scarlet-red sword. The 1-meter-long end smashed onto the ground. However, it was as if it had smashed onto Xionghe's heart. How could this be? Xionghe was completely stunned. His complexion had turned deathly pale. Taoist Lu Su and Meiji, who were originally planning to surround and kill Qin Yu, also suddenly stopped. The two of them flew over to Xionghe. The two of them looked to the divine sword Scarlet Blood in Qin Yu's hand with a gaze filled with shock. They were scared stiff. The entire ravine of the Black Dragon Pool grew silent for a long time. Suddenly, a thunderous clamor sounded. Everyone became excited. Their gazes were all blazing as they looked to the divine sword Scarlet Blood in Qin Yu's hand. To be able to slice apart a heavenly divine artifact, it's most definitely an even more powerful heavenly divine artifact. The deities below were all discussing with one another. These deities only knew that heavenly divine artifacts were the most powerful. With their status, they simply did not have the qualifications to know about the existence of grand mist spiritual treasures. Thus, they determined that the divine sword Scarlet Blood in Qin Yu's hand was a heavenly divine artifact, even more powerful than the Spiked Club Mountain Crusher. Times strong wind whistled through the ravine. Qin Yu's long hair fluttered in the wind. Holding the divine sword Scarlet Blood in his hand, Qin Yu looked to the three people before him. "Are you scared?" Qin Yu said with a light smile. The gazes that Taoist Lu Su and Meiji looked to Qin Yu and the divine sword Scarlet Blood with were both filled with shock and fear. As for Xionghe, his entire body was slightly shivering as he looked to the spiked club in his hand that was already a section shorter. The divine sword Scarlet Blood's divine sword Scarlet Blood. However, in terms of strength, it was still a bit more powerful than a divine artifact. "If you're not going to make a move, then I'm going to." Qin Yu wielded the divine sword Scarlet Blood with one hand. Suddenly, the surface of the divine sword Scarlet Blood ignited with a layer of white flames. As a fire attribute heavenly deity artifact, it was capable of using flames to attack people. The hearts of Meiji and the others trembled when they saw the white pure flames. The hundreds of thousands of people below held their breaths again. This was a battle that was worth showing off to others in the future, even if they were just watching from the side. Meiji Lu Su go all out. "Meiji, now we can only see if that move of yours will succeed. If it doesn't, we can only go against Lord Black Dragon's orders," Xionghe said via Divine Sense voice transmission. Taoist Lu Su and Meiji both nodded. They didn't want to ask Lord Black Dragon for help unless it was absolutely necessary. If they wanted to contact Lord Black Dragon, they had to do it at a specific time. If they suddenly disturbed Lord Black Dragon now, they wouldn't be able to bear Lord Black Dragon's anger. Meiji and Taoist Lu Su's figures suddenly moved. Like the wings of a butterfly, they naturally drifted to either side. A jade-green light immediately appeared on Taoist Lu Su and Meiji's bodies. "Yeah!" A furious roar. The muscles all over Xionghe's body suddenly expanded. Hiss! Sounds were being heard unceasingly. His muscles that had expanded by 2 to 3 times were blood red in color. Furthermore, Xionghe's bones were also emitting a sound that could make one's teeth turn cold. His body slowly lengthened. His muscles expanded. Xionghe was still roaring. The corners of his eyes were ripped open. The blue veins on his face were like numerous blue snakes swimming about on his face. They were completely protruding. "They're all going all out." Qin Yu swept his gaze all around. He had an excited expression on his face. It had been a long time since he last fought. Taoist Lu Su stopped in the air to his left. Taoist Lu Su held a green willow branch-like toy in his hand. His eyes were jade green. He appeared to be very peculiar. Meiji stopped in the air to his right. At this moment, a dark black battle armor had appeared on Meiji's body. Her eyes were ice cold. She no longer had the slightest bit of her previous seductive appearance. Xionghe clasped his hands together and grabbed onto the damaged spiked club. His biceps bulged high. His veins were clearly visible. Ha! With a loud shout, Xionghe turned into a blur. In practically a snap of a finger, he had traveled a distance of 100 meters and arrived before Qinyu. His spiked club was directly smashed toward Qinyu. At the same moment, Meiji and Taoist Lu Su's attacks had both arrived. Taoist Lu Su immediately released 10 soft green willow branches from his hands. They were directly sent toward Qinyu to bind him. As for Meiji, she held a very ordinary high-quality divine artifact long sword and hacked it toward Qinyu. Taoist Lu Su, what a strange attacking method. Qinyu's body twisted strangely. He actually twisted a distance of nearly 20 centimeters and dodged the attack of the spiked club. At the same time, he moved the divine sword Scarlet Blood in his hand. A scarlet sword silhouette soared into the sky. Like a mirage, it was about to split Xionghe's body into two. Xionghe's eyes were immediately opened wide. He suddenly changed the trajectory of his spiked club, from smashing to blocking. At the same time he flew back. PFFF. Even though he was vomiting blood to change the trajectory of his spiked club with all his might, even though he was flying back with all his might, the divine sword Scarlet Blood still managed to cut off a meter-long section of the spiked club. It then continued to hack at Xionghe's body. Fortunately, Xionghe was slightly obstructed by the spiked club. Thus his little life was saved. A large wound appeared on Xionghe's stomach. His intestines were about to be exposed. Jade green-colored heavenly divine energy immediately started to circulate around Xionghe's body. In a situation where he was recklessly consuming his heavenly divine energy, his injuries were healed in merely a moment. Qinyu sighed in his heart. Had it not been for the fact that Meiji and Taoist Lu Su were attacking him, he would have been able to take advantage of this opportunity to kill Xionghe. Qinyu dodged several times. However, this Taoist Lu Su's technique was actually not inferior to his in the slightest. A soft green willow branch had wrapped around Qinyu's arm. At this moment, Qinyu's arm was unable to move in the slightest. What the hell is this? Qinyu looked to this green willow branch in shock. This Taoist Lu Su's attack was truly too strange. Furthermore, this green willow branch's toughness and strength were both extremely strong. At the same time, the other 9 green willow branches also started to violently attack Qinyu's head. It was as if they were going to wrap around Qinyu's head. Not only that, at this moment, that Meiji had also arrived. Meiji and Taoist Lu Su were both bursting forth with excitement. Even Xionghe, who had retreated to the side to heal his injuries, also saw the hope of victory. You want to kill me with just this? Qinyu sighed in his heart. He displayed a light smile on his face. Whoosh! Qinyu's entire body suddenly emitted white flames. The green willow branch that originally wrapped around Qinyu's arm was instantly burned to ashes. Against the white pure flames, even the green willow branch was unable to withstand it. Other than that, the 9 green willow branches that were trying to wrap around Qinyu's head also flew back. Even if I told you to attack, you wouldn't dare to attack. Qinyu took a glance at Taoist Lu Su. At the same time, Qinyu completely ignored Meiji's attack. Instead, he rapidly chased after Taoist Lu Su. Let's kill Taoist Lu Su first. Meiji chased after Qinyu. Qinyu chased after Taoist Lu Su. Taoist Lu Su fled. How could one play with fire to such a degree? The white pure flames are the true flames within one's body. How could he suddenly release so much of them? Taoist Lu Su was completely unable to understand. Qinyu laughed in his heart. Taoist Lu Su, how did you know that of the 2 weapons that I am currently using, the most powerful one is the refining flame wristband? Although the divine sword Scarlet Blood appeared to be powerful, it was only comparable to a third-rated spiritual treasure. As for the refining flame wristband, it was a second-rated spiritual treasure. Once the white pure flames were released, even heavenly deity-level experts would not be able to withstand it. Qin Yu saw how fast this Taoist Lu Su was running away, and then saw that Meiji dared to chase after him. He sneered. Immediately, without any warning, Qin Yu suddenly stopped, and then slashed out a sword strike behind him. Like a curtain, the sword shadow tore through the vast sky. Like tofu, that high-quality divine sword was sliced in half. Meiji's eyes were filled with shock. At this moment of life and death, Meiji suddenly turned her head. A sword shadow had sliced Meiji's body in half. Fortunately, Meiji had turned her head at the last moment. Thus, her head was not sliced in half. Meiji's head rapidly escaped. After that, a large amount of jade green-colored heavenly divine energy emerged from her head. She once again formed a body. Meiji's complexion was extremely pale. To form a body, she had consumed an enormous amount of heavenly divine energy. The several 100,000 troops of the Black Dragon pool below were all stunned. Their 3 heavenly deities were actually beaten to such a miserable state by a single person. Xianghei's heavenly divine artifact was sliced in half. Furthermore, his stomach was sliced open. Meiji's body was sliced in half. Her little life was nearly lost. Even Taoist Lu Su, who appeared to be in the best condition, was forced to flee after being chased by Qin Yu. Weak. In an absolute weak state. No wonder Senior Craftsman God is so respected in the divine realm. A single high-quality heavenly divine artifact is already this powerful. It's even capable of allowing me, a high-level deity, who doesn't even possess heavenly divine energy, to easily defeat 3 low-level heavenly deities. Qin Yu felt even more of the revered status of artifact craftsman. Actually, it was not like what Qin Yu had imagined. The reason why Qin Yu was able to defeat these 3 heavenly deities was because of the assistance from Lu Xing's tier. It allowed his spatial control to be on the same level as the 3 low-level heavenly deities. If he did not possess the assistance from Lu Xing's tier, then even if he possessed a high-quality heavenly divine artifact, it would still be impossible for him to defeat low-level heavenly deities. After all, high-level deities were incapable of even flying. Qin Yu was surprised to discover one thing. Taoist Lu Su, Meiji and Xianghei were actually not discouraged in the slightest. They were still filled with fighting spirit. Could it be that they still have some sort of trump card that they have yet to use? Qin Yu was unable to refrain himself from becoming alert. If the 3 heavenly deities did not possess any sort of trump card, then it was likely that they would have already fled for their lives. Xianghei, Taoist Lu Su and Meiji coldly stared at Qin Yu. Ha! Xianghei shouted loudly. His shout was like an order. The 3 of them immediately rushed to attack Qin Yu from all sides. At this moment, the 3 of them possessed ice-cold gazes. Courting death. Qin Yu did not care about that anymore. He immediately rushed forward. Qin Yu's charge caused Xianghei and Qin Yu to also rush toward each other. This caused Taoist Lu Su and Meiji to be a bit slower. Die! Qin Yu immediately attacked. At the same time, white flames emerged from Qin Yu's body. The white pure flames covered his body. Qin Yu completely ignored the attacks from Taoist Lu Su and Meiji and directly attacked Xianghei. However, right at this moment, PFFF, an extremely tiny sharp hook rapidly pierced into Qin Yu's body. That tiny sharp hook then escaped with a lightning-like speed. However, Qin Yu's entire body violently trembled. The sword in his hand was no longer able to slash out. Like a block of wood, Qin Yu directly fell down from the sky. Bang! Qin Yu landed on the ground. Silence! The several 100,000 people of the Black Dragon pool that were watching the battle grew silent. At the same time they were stunned. Qin Yu, who originally held the upper hand, was actually defeated just like that? Haha! Xianghei's loud laughter resounded through the vast sky. Haha, Qin Yu, aren't you still going to die by my hands? Xianghei flew down and landed beside Qin Yu. Taoist Lu Su and the pale-faced Meiji also landed. Lil sis Meiji, I've troubled you this time around. Xianghei said gratefully. The pale-faced Meiji shook her head. There's no need to say any more. Earlier, my poisonous soul hook had only been burned by the white pure flame for an instant, and had already shrunk by half. The damage this time around, it would take me at the very least several million years to recover. Poisonous soul hook, Meiji's natural weapon. Meiji's true form was the Pink Reaper Scorpion of the Scorpion clan. The poisonous soul hook contained poison. Its attack was not to attack other things, but to attack one's soul. When one's soul was attacked, one would become incomparably muddle-headed for a period of time. The might of the poisonous soul hook was also related to the strength of the Pink Reaper Scorpion. The stronger the Pink Reaper Scorpion was, the stronger the poisonous soul hook would be. Roar! Lord Xionghe. Lady Meiji. Lord Xionghe. Lady Lu Su. All kinds of cheers sounded unceasingly. The entire ravine of the Black Dragon Pool had turned into a sea of jubilation. The several 100,000 people of the Black Dragon Pool were all cheering for Xionghe, Meiji and Taoist Lu Su. Xionghe, Meiji and Lu Su were all smiling. They were extremely excited. Xionghe laughed loudly. Haha, wait for me to kill Qinyu. Xionghe waved the 2-meter-long badly damaged spiked club in his hand and smashed it toward Qinyu's head on the ground. Bang! Xionghe looked to the ground with astonishment. Earlier, Qinyu's body had suddenly moved half a meter to the side. Xionghe's spiked club had only smashed into the ground. And at this moment, Qinyu had already opened his eyes. He even smiled to Xionghe. Xionghe, one cannot be too arrogant. Qinyu's divine awareness voice transmission was still sounding in Xionghe's mind. At the same time, hundreds and thousands of scarlet sword silhouettes slashed through Xionghe's body. At such a close distance, there were so many sword silhouettes. In merely an instant, Xionghe was sliced into pieces. His soul, Yuanying, was also sliced into pieces. His soul was scattered. As for his true spirit, it was merely shaken by Qin Yu's sword silhouettes and scattered. At the moment when Xionghe unleashed his sword silhouettes, Qin Yu's body was like a sword. With lightning speed, he streaked across the space and arrived beside Taoist Lu Su. Whoosh! Sword silhouettes soared into the sky. Taoist Lu Su flew back. However, no matter how much he flew back, his body was still sliced into two from the shoulder down. Taoist Lu Su's head flew far away. Fortunately, Taoist Lu Su's reaction was fast. Otherwise, his little life would have been finished. As for Meiji, who was the furthest away, her reaction was the fastest. She also rapidly flew far away. Meiji flew to the side of the Black Dragon Pool. She rapidly dropped down and landed on the side of the Black Dragon Pool. When others saw her, they would have thought that she was seriously injured. As for Meiji, she used her divine awareness to penetrate into the surface of the Black Dragon Pool and sent a voice transmission. Lord Black Dragon, Xionghe has died in battle. Lu Su and I might die at any moment. Quickly come and save us. Chapter 524. Qinyu stood in the middle of the ravine with his hands behind his back. As for Meiji, she was lying beside the Black Dragon Pool. Even the seriously injured Taoist Lu Su, after consuming a large amount of heavenly divine energy to restore his body, flew over to Meiji's side and sat on the ground. Silent suppression. The several 100,000 spectators in the ravine all held their breaths. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. The situation had immediately changed. Earlier, it was Xionghe and the other two that wanted to kill Qinyu. However, Qinyu, who was lying on the ground, suddenly attacked. Before many of the deities could react, Qinyu had already killed Xionghe and seriously injured Taoist Lu Su. Everything happened in a flash. Meiji, when I was lying on the ground earlier, I heard you saying poisonous soul hook to Xionghe. Is that little hook that you used to attack me the poisonous soul hook? Qinyu lightly smiled and walked to about 10 meters away from Meiji. Meiji was still sitting on the ground. She merely nodded. At the same time, she asked in confusion, "You've been struck by my poisonous soul hook. How are you able to wake up this quickly?" Meiji knew very well about the attack power of the poisonous soul hook. Meiji herself did not possess any powerful attack. Only her poisonous soul hook was a bit strange and special. If her enemy was already prepared for it, then Meiji would be an extremely weak person. Woke up this quickly? Qinyu smiled. What did she mean by woke up this quickly? Qinyu knew very well that when he was struck by the poisonous soul hook, it merely caused his soul Jin Dan to tremble slightly. Before he was even affected in the slightest, Lu Xing's tear had already emitted a green light to offset that attack. The reason why he fell down earlier was merely because he did it deliberately. Qingyu suddenly saw that Meiji and Lu Su's expression had turned strange. He had a strange feeling. Thus he lightly smiled and said, Meiji, Lu Su, what's with your expressions? Meiji and Lu Su glanced at each other and lightly smiled. Qingyu felt a burst of throbbing in his heart. He immediately turned his gaze to the lake behind Meiji and Lu Su, the Black Dragon Pool. Qingyu knew very well that this large lake, with a circumference of over 100 miles, was the true Black Dragon Pool. The surface of the Black Dragon Pool had always been as tranquil as a mirror. It was incomparably deep and gave people a kind of soul-shaking feeling. However, at this moment, the surface of the lake that was as tranquil as a mirror actually started to fluctuate. At the same time, a strange and demonic aura started to rise from the surface of the lake. Qingyu's first reaction was to move his body and fly backwards. In one breath, Xiao Chun retreated 5 kilometers and arrived outside the great array that he had set up. This was a fire-attributed killing array. Once the array was activated, boundless white pure flames would burn. In Qinyu's opinion, if he sensed that something was amiss, he would immediately enter the formation. The white pure fire was a threat to others, but it posed no threat to Qinyu. What's in the Black Dragon Pool? Qinyu clearly felt a sense of crisis. Could it be the leader of the Black Dragon Pool, the legendary missing Black Dragon? Lord Black Dragon had not appeared for many years. Rumble. The Black Dragon Pool began to tremble. The center of the lake began to churn, as if it was boiling. The churning grew larger and larger. Suddenly, a figure could be seen standing on the boiling spring water and rising from the bottom of the lake. This person had a height of about 170 centimeters. His muscles were streamlined, and his entire body was dark. He appeared very lean. He had a head full of short scarlet hair that stood erect like steel needles. His scarlet eyebrows were like sharp swords. Beneath the scarlet eyebrows was a pair of gloomy and baleful eyes. We pay our respects to Lord Black Dragon. Meiji and Lu Su kneeled down on one knee in a very respectful manner, and said with their heads lowered. The several 100,000 onlookers were also silent. However, after a short moment, all of the several 100,000 onlookers kneeled down on one knee. In a very respectful manner, they said in unison, We pay our respects to Lord Black Dragon. The voices of several 100,000 onlookers soared through the clouds. This Lord Black Dragon was only about 170 centimeters tall. He appeared to be a youngster. However, his pair of gloomy and baleful eyes made it impossible for others to believe that he was a youngster. Qinyu carefully observed this Lord Black Dragon. The battle armor you're wearing is quite special. Qinyu displayed a slight smile on his face. The divine armor was capable of changing its appearance. As long as one wanted it, it would be able to change its appearance. This Lord Black Dragon's battle armor only protected the majority of his body's vital points. As for his thighs, arms, and other parts of his body, they were completely naked. His dark and beautiful muscles were completely exposed. Furthermore, his short scarlet hair and scarlet eyebrows were both relatively rare. This Lord Black Dragon, with merely a glance at Qinyu felt a sense of oppression. His soul's level is much higher than mine. Qinyu was very certain. At the very least, this Lord Black Dragon was a mid-level heavenly deity. You're the person who killed my subordinate, Xionghe? That Qinyu who is proficient in setting up formations? Black Dragon looked to Qinyu. His voice had a sort of strange metallic feeling to it. Once those words were spoken, Qinyu determined that this Black Dragon had already obtained information about him. That's right. Qinyu faced Black Dragon. His long black hair fluttered in the wind. A rare smile appeared on his grave and stern face. You're the legendary Black Dragon that has been missing for many years? I am Black Dragon. Black Dragon's expression was solemn. Qinyu, you have a path to life and a path to death. The path to life is to serve me and forget about the matter of killing Xionghe. The path to death, if you don't serve me, then you will die. Life or death, your choice. Black Dragon raised his scarlet eyebrows. He gave off an arrogant and domineering aura. Qinyu took a glance at Meiji and Taoist Lu Su. He then raised his head and looked to Black Dragon. Black Dragon, my life or death is something that no one can decide. Even God Kings cannot decide. Much less, a mere bandit leader like you. Qin Yu pointed his index finger at Black Dragon. Qin Yu's voice was indifferent. His gaze was sharp. He completely ignored the oppressive aura of Black Dragon. Black Dragon slightly raised the corner of his mouth. In that case, you can die. Black Dragon extended his hand. A 2-meter-long black stick appeared in his hand. Holding this long stick, Black Dragon rushed toward Qin Yu at an extremely fast speed. His speed was not fast at all. However, he had created several tens of afterimages. Amen. This pace. Qin Yu was surprised to discover that there was something wrong with Black Dragon's pace. Every single step that Black Dragon took gave off an extremely awkward feeling. It was not natural at all. However, it gave off a feeling of a bowstring being stretched taut, as if he could unleash his strongest attack at any moment. What sort of pace is this? No, his aura is increasing. Qin Yu was surprised to discover that in the 10 miles that Black Dragon had been running toward him, his aura had been increasing unceasingly. He did not use his soul's power to increase his aura. Instead, he relied on his pace and rhythm to create an aura that was naturally created. Black Dragon's gloomy eyes stared fixedly at Qin Yu. The baleful aura in his eyes had not changed at all from when he had first appeared until now. It was as if fighting with Qin Yu wasn't worth him using his full strength. If I allow him to build up his aura, his soul's level is higher than mine. If this continues, Qin Yu felt a stifling pressure in his heart. He began to panic. The Black Dragon in front of him was like an unscalable mountain. Furthermore, this mountain was constantly growing taller. Retreat! Just as Black Dragon was about to reach him, Qin Yu took a step forward, stepping directly into the nearby array. This step was something that Qin Yu had prepared long ago. It just so happened that he stepped through the life gate. Black Dragon glanced at the array Qin Yu was in. Without any hesitation, he charged into the killing array. Times upon seeing Black Dragon enter the array, Qin Yu could not help but smile. You are indeed strong. However, I would like to see how you will withstand the omnipresent white pure flames. Qin Yu's quintessential fire had increased by a level to become white pure flames. This also made the array he had set up this time much stronger than before. Furthermore, the array he had set up was complete. The moment Black Dragon stepped into the killing array, the entire killing array began to produce white pure flames. All the white pure flames surged towards Black Dragon. Black Dragon, who looked like a cold youth, held a black staff in one hand as he coldly looked at the white pure flames. White pure flames. Qin Yu, your attainments in array formations are indeed not bad. Black Dragon's scarlet-red brows rose slightly. He stood there, completely unfazed by the approaching white pure flames. As Qin Yu waited in anticipation, a scene that shocked Qin Yu happened. When the white pure flames reached a foot away from Black Dragon, they were actually unable to approach him anymore. This sort of scene was truly too strange. It was so strange that Qin Yu was unable to believe it. Qin Yu and Black Dragon were inside the killing array. However, at this moment, the people outside the killing array were completely confused. What exactly is happening inside? Said Taoist Lu Su with a frown. Mei Ji also shook her head and said, we are unable to see clearly at all. Countless white pure flames have filled the entire Great Array formation. Who knows what's happening inside? However, I believe that Lord Black Dragon will definitely win. I also believe that Lord Black Dragon will win. However, it's a rare opportunity to see Lord Black Dragon fight. Yet I am unable to see it. It's truly regretful. Said Taoist Lu Su with a sigh. It was not only him who was sighing. The several 100,000 people watching from afar were also sighing. Countless white pure flames had filled the entire Great Array formation. It was as if the entire Great Array formation had been filled with dense fog. No one knew what was happening inside. Qin Yu, you don't even know about this? Black Dragon had a trace of disdain in his eyes. It would appear that you do not know about the battle style of heavenly deities at all. I truly do not know how you managed to kill Xionghe. After he finished saying that, Black Dragon rushed toward Qin Yu with a lightning speed. The white pure flames were unable to injure Black Dragon in the slightest. This caused Qin Yu to be shocked. However, Qin Yu immediately calmed down. Holding the divine sword Scarlet Blood with one hand, Qin Yu looked at the incoming black dragon without moving. When Black Dragon was rushing toward Qin Yu, he gave off a sharp sensation. Whoosh! The black stick in Black Dragon's hand was suddenly thrust forward. As if it had instantly passed through space, the stick arrived before Qin Yu. The long stick was thrust forward while spinning like a poisonous snake. The divine sword Scarlet Blood in Qin Yu's hand was also thrust forward. This sword strike contained the profoundness of the heaven-startling single-stick strike. From Qin Yu's point of view, regardless of what kind of weapon it was, it could all use the same type of Tao. He only felt that the spatial energy surrounding the divine sword Scarlet Blood had started to spin and distort. The tip of the divine sword Scarlet Blood had pierced through everything in its path. A sharp and clear collision sound could be heard. The tip of the long stick against the tip of the divine sword. Qin Yu and Black Dragon both flew backwards. Amen. Qin Yu was shocked to discover one thing. The high-quality heavenly divine artifact Divine Sword Scarlet Blood, that possessed the special effect of sharpness, was actually not damaged in the slightest by the long stick. Your divine sword is a high-quality heavenly divine artifact? That Black Dragon's gloomy eyes suddenly blazed. He was firmly staring at the divine sword Scarlet Blood in Qin Yu's hand. What makes you think that? Qin Yu also felt that the situation was bad. That cold and indifferent Black Dragon actually started to laugh. That's because in the short period of time that I've interacted with you, I've already determined that your strength is merely that of a low-level heavenly deity. Yet, a mere low-level heavenly deity is able to fight equally against me by relying on a heavenly divine artifact. My weapon is a mid-quality heavenly divine artifact. Your weapon is definitely not a mid-quality heavenly divine artifact. Instead, it's the even more powerful high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Only now did Qin Yu realize that the long stick in his opponent's hand was actually a mid-quality heavenly divine artifact. Qin Yu, don't resist. Your strength is truly very weak. A smile appeared on Black Dragon's face. Perhaps it was because Black Dragon was too happy to see the high-quality heavenly divine artifact in Qin Yu's hand. Qin Yu coldly humphed. You don't believe me? If I want to kill you, it's as easy as flipping my hand. Black Dragon lightly smiled. Immediately, with Black Dragon as the center, all of the white pure flames within a circumference of 50 meters were avoided. There was not a single white pure flame in this region. As for Qin Yu, he was only a dozen meters away from Black Dragon. Thus he was naturally within this range. Why can't I move? Qin Yu felt as if he had been struck by a body-fixing technique. He was unable to move at all. Black Dragon had a smiling expression in his eyes. A high-quality heavenly divine artifact is sufficient for me to fight against ordinary high-level heavenly deities. Haha. Never would I have expected that I would be able to obtain a high-quality heavenly divine artifact today. Black Dragon, exactly what sort of method did you use? Qin Yu shouted with a frown. Black Dragon was slightly startled. He then smiled and said, Qin Yu, I said that you don't understand a battle between heavenly deities. A battle between heavenly deities. The most important aspect is one's comprehension of space. As a mid-level heavenly deity, my comprehension of space is sufficient for me to possess a spatial domain. Within the range of my spatial domain, I am able to suppress my opponents. I am able to completely disregard other things. For example, the white pure flames. Qin Yu immediately understood. Low-level heavenly deities' comprehension of space is sufficient for them to counteract the gravity of the ground and allow them to fly. Mid-level heavenly deities are capable of forming spatial domains. As for high-level heavenly deities, they are capable of destroying a small region of space. When low-level heavenly deities face mid-level heavenly deities, they simply do not have the ability to resist. When mid-level heavenly deities face high-level heavenly deities, they are the same, said Black Dragon with a light smile. Are you confused as to why I said that I would be able to fight against high-level heavenly deities? Just because I possess a high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Qin Yu carefully listened to Black Dragon. He indeed wanted to know. Unfortunately, I do not wish to tell you. Right now, I shall bestow upon you death. Black Dragon's body moved and arrived before Qinyu. He swung his stick horizontally and smashed it toward Qinyu's head. Qinyu's eyes shined. Inside the universal world that Qinyu had created, Qinyu himself had directly entered the universal world. The universal world's spatial energy. Due to the fact that the universal world was still growing, Qinyu was only able to control a portion of the spatial energy. Qinyu controlled the universal world's spatial energy to pass through the obstruction between the universal world and the divine realm. He connected the spatial energy to the point where he had just left, the coordinates. After the spatial energy connected to that point, it still had the strength to spread a distance of about 100 meters. Huff! Qinyu once again appeared at his original location. At this moment, Black Dragon was still looking all around for Qinyu. When he saw Qinyu's sudden appearance, he was startled. How did you disappear? Could it be that you know teleportation? No, that's impossible. Regardless of how calm Black Dragon was, he was still unable to understand what had happened. Teleportation? Qinyu was slightly startled. He had merely entered the universal world, and then re-entered it. However, upon hearing the word teleportation, Qinyu suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Chapter 525. The reason why Qinyu had returned to the God world from the Qiankuan world was because of the spatial power of his Qiankuan world. Not only could it connect to the point where he had left the God world, but it could also extend 100 meters in all directions. According to what Qinyu knew, as long as the spatial energy of the universe world could reach the area, he would be able to reach it in an instant. He was able to instantly return to his original position from the universal world, but at the same time, he was also able to instantly go from the universal world to a place 100 meters away from the deity realm. If I instantly return to the Qiankuan world, and then return to the deity world from the Qiankuan world, the area where the spatial energy spreads out will be the area where I can instantly reach. Doesn't that mean I can teleport 100 meters away? Qinyu was overjoyed. In the divine world, teleportation was a divine ability that only divine kings and above could possess. This was because the spatial restrictions in the divine realm were too great. Only those who had completely mastered the spatial laws would be able to teleport. However, Qinyu, as the creator of the Qiankuan world, could rely on the spatial power of the Qiankuan world to achieve short-distance teleportation. No, I don't need to go through the trouble of returning to the universe world. I just need to control the spatial energy of the universe world to descend into the divine world and spread it around my body. As long as I am within 100 meters of myself, I can teleport there. Qinyu's mind immediately came up with a method to use the power of space. That's not all. The spatial power of the universal world isn't just limited to this. I can also use this spatial power to bind others, just like the space domain. Qinyu's eyes lit up. Furthermore, the universal world is still growing. It's still in its early stages, but it can already spread out to a distance of 100 meters. As it grows, the area it can spread out will also increase. It's just that there aren't many spatial powers that can connect to the God realm right now, so it probably won't be very effective in binding people. Qinyu's mind raced like lightning. This was the God realm, and the Qiankuan world was an independent world. The spatial energy of two different worlds, the spatial energy of the universal world, would definitely be greatly reduced when used in the divine world. It was far from being as powerful as it was in the Qiankuan world, but even if it was greatly reduced, Qinyu was still very satisfied. Using the universal world's spatial energy to bind others, even if it's inferior to a mid-level heavenly deity's spatial domain, I reckon it's not far off. Qinyu thought in his heart. In just a few breaths of time, Qinyu had already thought of a lot of things. At the same time, Qinyu had also thought of many more methods to fight against others. Qinyu, speak. What method did you use just now to dodge my sure kill attack? The black dragon's gloomy eyes, which had been filled with killing intent, suddenly blazed as he stared fixedly at Qinyu. Qinyu could instantly disappear. Even if it wasn't teleportation, it was likely very close to it. Once one learned this sort of remarkable ability, one would be able to fight against high-level heavenly deities. Why are high-level heavenly deities so powerful? As long as one was able to instantly disappear, the high-level heavenly deity's ability would naturally be useless. Black Dragon's heart began to tremble. He really wanted to obtain Qin Yu's sacred art. What method? This is my master's secret, Qin Yu directly said. At this moment, Qin Yu had already made his decision. No matter what, the ability to teleport cannot be revealed unless it is a life and death situation. Qin Yu knew how abnormal the ability to teleport that only God Kings possessed was. With this ability, if he were to wait until his divine spear waning snow absorbed the dark and yellow energy, he might even be able to fight against high-level heavenly deities. Without sufficient strength, he absolutely could not let the outside world know about this abnormal ability. A secret that won't be passed on? Then Qin Yu, is it fine if I become your disciple? Black Dragon's eyes shined as he looked to Qin Yu. In order to obtain this ability that he suspected to be teleportation, Black Dragon no longer cared about anything else. The use of this ability was much more important than a high-level heavenly divine artifact. Become my disciple? Qin Yu shook his head. My master only accepts me as his disciple. Furthermore, did you think that you would be able to become my master's disciple just because you wanted to? Black Dragon suddenly woke up from his stupor. That's right, this Qin Yu possesses a high-level heavenly divine artifact. To be able to bestow a high-level heavenly divine artifact to his disciple, how could he possibly be an ordinary person? Furthermore, to be able to make a low-level heavenly deity use an ability comparable to teleportation, a master like him is at the very least a God King level expert. In the entire divine realm, countless people wish to become the disciple of a God King. Indeed, it is not a master that I can become just because I want to. Black Dragon's scarlet sharp eyebrows were knitted together. He was pondering non-stop. In that case, Qin Yu, I'll become your disciple. Black Dragon clenched his teeth and said. Qin Yu's strength was much weaker than his. If it was in the past, Black Dragon would also not be willing to become Qin Yu's disciple after killing him. However, the ability that Qin Yu displayed earlier was truly too abnormal. It was truly too attractive to Black Dragon. Qin Yu was stunned. Become my disciple? Become my disciple? Qin Yu shook his head and smiled. Black Dragon, this remarkable ability is called So Close Yet Worlds Apart. It is a secret ability that my sect's heaven and earth sect's successive generations of disciples did not pass on. Furthermore, in order to pass on this remarkable ability, one must obtain my master's permission. In a blink of an eye, Qin Yu came up with a lie. So close yet worlds apart? Black Dragon's eyes shined. Qin Yu nodded. That's right. So Close Yet Worlds Apart was created by my master after many years of research. It is meant for heavenly deity level experts to use. Although it's not as fast as teleportation, it's not far from it. Right, it's not far from it. Black Dragon felt as if there were ants crawling on his heart. He truly wanted to learn this ability called So Close Yet Worlds Apart. This Black Dragon's pursuit of strength was not something that Qin Yu could understand. Black Dragon had ascended from the Devil Murder World. The Devil Murder World was different from the immortal Devil and Demon realm. The Devil Murder World was a world of unceasing slaughter. Every single child that was born in the Devil Murder World, for the sake of their relatives, or for the sake of their own status, would painstakingly train and kill unceasingly. Every single giant in the Devil Murder World was a valiant character proficient in slaughter and battle. When Black Dragon came out from the Black Dragon pool, the footwork that he used to rush toward Qin Yu was the footwork that Black Dragon had comprehended after coming to the Divine Realm. Black Dragon had been in the Divine Realm for all these years. He had always wanted to become a true expert. The people from the Devil Murder World were practically all ruthless and cruel people. Being rejected by Qin Yu, Black Dragon's scarlet eyebrows started to crease. A sinister plan naturally appeared in his mind. If I were to continue to endure like this, who knows how many years it would take for me to become a character that could call the wind and summon the rain in the Divine Realm. Once I obtain this So Close Yet Worlds Apart ability, I would even be able to kill high-level heavenly deities. In an instant, he arrived beside a high-level heavenly deity and gave him a heavy attack. The reason why high-level heavenly deities were stronger than mid-level heavenly deities was because of their comprehension of the spatial laws. As for their pure attack power, there was not much of a difference. After killing Qin Yu and using the soul-seizing technique to obtain his soul memories, I would naturally learn the so close yet worlds apart ability. At the same time, I would also be able to obtain that high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Taking risks. The greater the benefits, the more willing some people would be to take risks, even if they were to risk their lives. After killing Qin Yu, learning the so close yet worlds apart, and obtaining the divine sword Scarlet Blood, he would be second only to God Kings. Humph, so what if his master is a God King? It's impossible for God Kings to search the divine realm with their divine awareness all the time. In the divine realm, there is simply no way to send messages. If I were to kill Qin Yu would also be unable to send a message to his master. If I were to kill Qin Yu, the probability of me being discovered by his master is very low. However, if I were to succeed, Black Dragon began to become resolute. This so close yet worlds apart, and the divine sword Scarlet Blood were truly too alluring. Rather than becoming a small bandit leader in the divine realm, it would be better for him to seize this opportunity and move about unhindered in the divine realm. At that time, I will rely on a power. With the strength of the so close yet worlds apart, that I have learned, for example, Mount Blood Demon or Azura Sea, the God Kings of the Azura Sea will definitely protect me. Even if Qin Yu's master were to find out about this, what could he possibly do to me? After careful consideration, Black Dragon made the most important decision he had made since coming to the divine realm. He would kill a disciple that he suspected to be a God King expert. If he were to succeed, he would be someone second only to God Kings. If he were to fail, his soul would scatter. Good, I'll do this. When Black Dragon made his decision, he looked to his surroundings. However, he discovered that Qin Yu's figure had already disappeared. At the moment when he was pondering, Qin Yu had already escaped. Earlier, Black Dragon had a request for Qin Yu. Thus, he had even shrunk his spatial domain to his surroundings. Qin Yu had seized this opportunity to hide within the surrounding sea of white pure flames. In this great formation array, other than Black Dragon's surroundings, there were a large amount of white pure flames everywhere else. This caused the visibility to be extremely low. Black Dragon was simply unable to discover Qin Yu within the sea of white pure flames. In this divine great formation array, even one's divine awareness would not be able to carefully determine Black Dragon's location. What was Qin Yu doing? Within the sea of white pure flames, Qin Yu's figure was teleporting non-stop with a lightning-like speed. He would disappear from one place and reappear in another. As Qin Yu was the master of this great formation array, he naturally knew where Black Dragon was. Thus, Qin Yu would definitely not teleport to Black Dragon's side. Sure enough, it is as I thought. The universal world's spatial energy is capable of allowing me to teleport perfectly. Furthermore, it is also capable of forming a spatial domain. Merely, the binding power of this spatial domain ought to be inferior to a mid-level heavenly deity's true spatial domain. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. In the divine realm, the universal world's spatial energy was rejected by the divine realm's spatial energy. Otherwise, it wouldn't only be able to cover an area of 100 meters. How did Black Dragon get out of the great formation array? Qin Yu was puzzled. This was a killing formation, not an illusion formation or a trapping formation. Thus, it was naturally very easy for Black Dragon to get out. Qin Yu, do you dare to fight me head-on? Black Dragon's voice sounded. At this moment, at the edge of the 100-mile circumference Black Dragon pool, 5 blurs emerged from the bottom of the lake with lightning-like speed. These 5 blurs began to surround the great formation array from the side. If one was powerful enough, one would be able to clearly see that these 5 blurs all had short scarlet hair, scarlet eyebrows, and the appearance of a youngster. That's right. Every single one of them was a black dragon. These 5 black dragons all held a black stick in their hands. Chapter 526. The 5 black dragons were all mid-level heavenly deities. The long sticks in their hands were all mid-level heavenly divine artifacts. The speed of these 5 black dragons was extremely fast. Before Qin even left the formation array, they had already surrounded the formation array. 6 Lord Black Dragons. Everyone who saw this scene was dumbfounded. 1 was the original Lord Black Dragon, and 5 had appeared later. There were actually 6 of them. Moreover, their appearances and weapons were exactly the same. In the distance, Meiji and Taoist Lu Su's expression changed. They glanced at each other. Meiji, Lord Black Dragon has actually used his 6 clones. No, that's not it. What Lord Black Dragon has set up is Lord Black Dragon's strongest 6 directions extermination formation. In that case, wouldn't there still be? Taoist Lu Su's gaze was fixed on the ground, where the 6 black dragons were located. Meiji's expression was also solemn. That Qin actually forced Lord Black Dragon to use his full strength, activating the 6 directions extermination formation. In the entire Yuchi city, other than the Yuchi city's city master, that high-level heavenly deity Lord Yuchi Gonglan, no one else possesses this sort of strength. 6 directions annihilation formation. This was the Black Dragon's strongest move. This great array wasn't considered profound, but in the hands of the Black Dragon, it was able to display astonishing strength. This was because the Black Dragon could transform into 9 people. These 9 people were all doppelgangers. As long as one doppelganger did not die, Black Dragon would not die. The Black Dragon's true form was the 9-headed Black Dragon. It had brought about an endless amount of carnage in the devil murder realm. As a mutated monstrous beast, the 9-headed Black Dragon was able to create 9 clones that could exist independently. All of them possessed the strength of a mid-level heavenly deity. Below the ground surrounded by the 6 black dragons. Beneath the surface there were 3 tunnels. These 3 tunnels just so happened to be connected from the Black Dragon pool. The 3 black dragons were standing at the end of the tunnels. The 3 tunnels had been opened up by the 3 black dragons in a short period of time. There were 6 black dragons on the ground. Underground, 3 black dragons. The 9 black dragons formed a perfect 6 directions extermination formation. Each of them had a spatial domain of several tens of meters. And when the 9 of them combined, their spatial domain could cover a distance of nearly 1,000 meters. The 6 black dragons on the ground were rather far from each other, and Qin had just stepped out of the killing formation's range. As soon as he exited the array, Qin saw a black dragon in front of him. "Black Dragon, you want to fight me head-on?" Qin said aloud, but just as he spoke, Qin seemed to sense something and looked to the right, only to see another person in the distance. Crimson hair, crimson eyebrows, the appearance of a cold youth, and the long staff in his hand. Another black dragon? Qin couldn't help but turn his head to look in front of him. Qin suddenly looked behind him, to the left, to the front, to the left, to the back. His lightning-fast sweep caused Qin to break out in a cold sweat. 1-1, another black dragon, a total of 6 black dragons. Furthermore, these 6 black dragons all had 6 black rods. Even their auras were the same. 6 mid-level heavenly deities and 6 mid-level heavenly divine artifacts. Qin was truly confused. Exactly what was going on? How could there be so many identical heavenly divine artifacts? Was it an illusion? Qin didn't have time to think, because the 6 black dragons attacked at the same time. Qin, with a loud shout, the 6 black dragons all moved at the same time. Each and every one of the black dragons created several tens of afterimages. In an instant, there were several hundred afterimages. And at the same moment, spatial domain? Qin discovered that he was unable to move. Something's wrong. I am over 100 meters away from each and every one of them. This spatial domain has such a large range. Even now, Qin still didn't know that when the 9 black dragons joined hands, their spatial domain had a range of over 1,000 meters. At this moment, I am not in the formation. There are still several 100,000 people watching from afar. If I were to use teleportation, I would definitely be discovered by them. This matter would be spread out. No, teleportation absolutely cannot be spread out. Qin absolutely did not wish to expose his ability to teleport. That was because Qin Yu knew what the consequences would be if he were to reveal it. Faced with the fatal attack of his opponents, even if he was unable to block it, he could at most hide in his universal world and wait for a period of time before coming out. He absolutely could not use teleportation. If he were to suddenly disappear, others might suspect that he possessed a spatial divine artifact. Although spatial divine artifacts were extremely precious in the divine realm, they were not as shocking as a heavenly deity capable of teleportation. Qin Yu, you're dead meat. The 9 black dragons were all excited. At this moment, Qin Yu had not discovered that there were 3 more black dragons below the formation that were about to attack. Suddenly, a sharp and clear voice sounded. Tanjio, stop. A yellow-clothed figure was floating over from afar. It was Huang Jing. Huang Jing gently extended her right hand and made a grabbing motion with her right hand. Qin Yu was able to clearly see that a space close to 10 meters, within the 6 directions extermination formation, had completely shattered. Numerous black cracks appeared before his eyes. Space shattered. The 6 black dragons acted as if they had been paralyzed. Their movements came to a sudden stop. With shock, they looked to the yellow-clothed woman floating over from afar. Who is this woman? She's actually capable of destroying space. Since when did Yuchi City have a female high-level heavenly deity? The black dragons knew very well that his opponent had already been lenient toward him. If she were to be ruthless, she would likely be able to directly destroy one of his clones. With merely 9 attacks, all 9 of his clones would be finished. Regardless of how unwilling they were, the black dragons had still stopped. Tanjio, there's no need for your other 3 clones to continue hiding underground, said Huang Jing with a light smile. At this moment, the black dragons could only try their hardest to squeeze out a smile. The 3 clones underground appeared beside Qin Yu. Upon seeing these 3 black dragons, Qin Yu was unable to refrain himself from sweating cold sweat. At this moment, one of the black dragons turned to Taoist Lu Su and ordered, Lu Su, order everyone to move away. Do not obstruct us here. Yes, Lord Black Dragon. Taoist Lu Su immediately accepted the order. Under the orders of Taoist Lu Su and Meiji, the majestic several 100,000 deities immediately dispersed. Only the 9 black dragons, Huang Jing and Qin Yu, remained beside the great formation array that Qin Yu had set up. Qin Yu, we meet again, said Huang Jing to Qin Yu with a smile. Qin Yu also expressed his thanks. Miss Huang Jing, thank you for saving my life. Oh, that's right. Why did you call this black dragon Tanjio? Huang Jing looked to the black dragons. Tanjio, you can say it yourself. The 9 black dragons actually gathered together at the same time. After that, the 9 of them fused into a single person. At the same time, 9 black sticks appeared in the hands of this black dragon. These 9 black sticks became shorter. Each stick was only a foot long. The black dragon rubbed his hands together, and the 9 sticks formed a 9-section whip. My true form is that of a 9-headed black dragon. Thus I call myself Lord Black Dragon. When I was born, my parents gave me the name Tanjio. At this moment, the 9-headed black dragon Tanjio did not possess the slightest bit of arrogance. Faced with a high-level heavenly deity, he did not dare to be arrogant. So that's the case. 9-headed black dragon. Qin Yu was also able to guess that this Tanjio's parents must have given him the name Jiu, because their child had 9 heads. This 9-headed black dragon Tanjio looked to Huang Jing. May I know your lordship's name? My surname is Huang, said Huang Jing indifferently. Lady Huang. The 9-section whip in the 9-headed black dragon Tanjio's hand shook and turned into a long stick. May I know how Lady Huang knew of my name? In the divine realm, there are not many people who know of my real name. Huang Jing lightly smiled and said, It was the commander of the Yuchi city's army, Lu Yushi, who told me of your name. Lu Yushi? Tanjio's expression changed. Huang Jing lightly smiled and said, I chatted with Lu Yushi for a long time. Only then did I know that you, the bandit leader Tanjio, actually came from the devil murder realm at the same time as Lu Yushi. You both ascended to the divine realm at the same time. Furthermore, you both reached the mid-level heavenly deity level at the same time. And now, one of you is the bandit leader, while the other is the commander of the Yuchi city's army. Haha, this matter is truly strange. Qin Yu looked to Tanjio. He was able to sense that there was a special relationship between Tanjio and the commander of the Yuchi city's army, Lu Yushi. Lady Huang, I do not know what Lu Yushi said to your lordship for your lordship to personally come here. Tanjio's expression became a bit unnatural. He was cursing in his heart. Lu Yushi, you bastard. If you have the ability, then come and fight with me yourself. Why did you have a high-level heavenly deity come here? Huang Jing lightly smiled and said, Tanjio, I presume you've already guessed what he said. Why did you hide yourself in the Black Dragon pool for so many years? What did he tell me? Tanjio's eyes jumped. His pair of scarlet sword-like eyebrows were knitted together. A baleful aura was born between his brows. Lady Huang, must you insist on fighting over it? Tanjio slowly said. Qin Yu was able to tell from Tanjio's words that this Tanjio seemed to have hidden himself in the Black Dragon pool for countless years, for the sake of a certain item. Furthermore, it seemed that only that Lu Yushi and Tanjio knew about this information. Huang Jing smiled indifferently. Tanjio, that thing might be extremely important to you, and Lu Yushi. It might also be somewhat attractive to me. However, the two of you have spent countless years trying to obtain it. I am also not someone who will snatch away what you love. Thus, I will naturally not interfere. Between you and Lu Yushi, it will depend on your own ability as to who will obtain it. Nine-headed Black Dragon Tanjio immediately heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he began to suspect the background of this yellow-clothed woman. Even for high-level heavenly deities, there were not many that would not care about that treasure. Furthermore, Lu Yushi had told this woman about this secret. That bastard Lu Yushi. How could he be willing to tell this woman about this secret? Could it be that Lu Yushi wants to curry favor with this woman? Tanjio looked to Huang Jing. He and Lu Yushi had been fighting since the Devil Murder realm. Even now, after countless years, the two of them were still equally matched. Thus, he naturally knew about Lu Yushi's temperament. The reason why I have come here today is actually to see this friend of mine. Huang Jing looked to Qin Yu. Qin Yu was unable to refrain his shock. Miss Huang Jingyu, I obtained news that a heavenly deity had appeared in Mount Bewitch You. The time that heavenly deity appeared was close to the time when you and I separated. Later on, I heard that this heavenly deity had even killed his way to the Black Dragon pool. Thus I suspected that it was you. Upon seeing it, I discovered that it was indeed you. Huang Jing said with a smile. Qin Yu, you ought to have just reached the heavenly deity level, right? Might you be interested in going to Mount Dazzling Gold to train? Chapter 527. Go to Mount Dazzling Gold? In Qin Yu's heart, the center of authority and power in the eastern region of the Divine Realm, was this floating mountain, Mount Dazzling Gold. The utmost East Sage Emperor, and close to 10,000 heavenly deities were also gathered here. Sharpening the blade will not delay the work of chopping materials. It would be better for me to concentrate on training in the array path. It would not be too late for me to go to Mount Dazzling Gold after I have some accomplishments. Qin Yu thought in his heart. At the same time as he was studying the array path, his soul's level was also slowly increasing. According to the experience left behind by the craftsman god Cheho Yuan, once one reached the 8th level of formation array, one would be a peak high-level heavenly deity. Qin Yu looked to the yellow-clothed woman before him. Suddenly, he seemed to be able to see the long hair flutteringly air. Ah, Qin Yu was suddenly woken up. That's right, this Huang Jing is the large group captain of Mount Dazzling Gold, and a high-level heavenly deity. She should be someone from the core circle of the utmost East Sage Emperor's power. She most definitely knows about the surnames of the 8 great families of the Divine Realm. She might even know about Li Er. Uncle Fu was the butler of the Bewitching God Temple, a puppet created by the craftsman god Cheho Yuan. It was normal for him to not know about many secrets. However, this Huang Jing was someone from the core power of Mount Dazzling Gold. Qin Yu, what are you still thinking about? Huang Jing said with a light smile. In the vast Divine Realm, the 8 great sage emperors all reside in their own places. You've already reached the heavenly deity level. If you continue to work hard in a small place like Yuchi City, your accomplishments would not be too great. In Yuchi City, a low-level heavenly deity is already extraordinary. However, in Mount Dazzling Gold, any random person would be a heavenly deity. Huang Jing stared at Qingyu. I believe that you should not be willing to stay in the territory of Yuchi City, right? Hearing what Huang Jing said, Qingyu's heart was moved. When he had just arrived in the divine realm, his strength was indeed relatively weak. However, his stellar transformation had reached the universe realm. He had created a new world. With his universal world, Qingyu was able to teleport using spatial energy. In addition, the divine spear Waning Snow was absorbing the chi of heaven and earth. Its attack power was also shocking. Indeed, the current Yuchi City is no longer a challenge to me. The number of people that could be considered as my opponent can be counted with one hand. Qingyu sighed in his heart. Ordinary low-level heavenly deities were simply no match for him. Even if it was a mid-level heavenly deity, he would still be able to fight against them. If he were to risk his life and use teleportation, then it would indeed be very difficult for him to kill Qingyu in close combat. Only at this moment did the nine-headed black dragon Tanjio become certain that the yellow-clothed woman before him was actually from Mount Dazzling Gold. Tanjio became even more careful with this Huang Jing. At this moment he tried to persuade Qingyu. Qingyu, since Lord Huang Jing has personally invited you, you should accept. That's good. Qingyu was just about to agree when he suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Huang Jing looked to Qingyu with a puzzled expression. Qingyu started to frown. He recalled a bad thing. This Huang Jing thinks that I have reached the low-level heavenly deity level. However, I am actually only a high-level deity. I am only able to fly by relying on the assistance of Lu Xing's tear. The energy that I am currently using is divine energy. Huang Jing currently thinks that I have just reached the low-level heavenly deity level and have yet to transform my divine energy. However, if I continue to use divine energy, after arriving at Mount Dazzling Gold for a long period of time, I reckon that it would arouse the suspicions of many people. Furthermore, Mount Dazzling Gold is the utmost East Sage Emperor's territory. That utmost East Sage Emperor's strength is unfathomable. If I am to be suspected by him, it would be very troublesome. Qingyu immediately thought of this problem. Since he was using divine energy, how could he possibly make the close to 10,000 heavenly deities of Mount Dazzling Gold not suspect him? Exactly how long would it take to reach the low-level heavenly deity level from the peak of the high-level heavenly deity level? Qingyu was also very anxious and helpless. From the peak of the high-level deity level to the low-level heavenly deity level, this was a checkpoint where tens of billions and hundreds of billions of deities of the divine realm were trapped. If the time needed to break through was too long, if he were to not use his divine energy for a long period of time, he would definitely be suspected by the people of Mount Dazzling Gold. Miss Huang Jing, I also have a trace of expectation for Mount Dazzling Gold. Merely the current me is still too weak. I have yet to even completely transform my divine energy. I think it wouldn't be too late for me to go to Mount Dazzling Gold after my strength increases a bit. Qingyu persuaded. Huang Jing nodded. She seemed to be a bit disappointed. However, she still displayed a smile. Good. When the day comes that you are willing to go, you merely need to go to Mount Dazzling Gold and report my name. Thank you, Miss Huang Jing. Qingyu said gratefully. Although Qingyu was saying these things, there was a matter that was bothering him in his heart. Exactly what are the 8 great families of the divine realm? Which family does Zhengli belong to? Qingyu wanted to ask Huang Jing. After seeing the lean youngster black dragon beside him, Qingyu looked to Huang Jing and said via divine awareness voice transmission. Miss Huang Jing, I have a matter that I wish to ask you. Merely, I am worried that I might be too abrupt. The divine realm's most mysterious, most ancient and most powerful 8 great families had always kept their surnames a secret. Even if Huang Jing knew about it, how could she possibly tell him, an ordinary nobody that she had only met a few times? Hearing Qinyu's divine awareness voice transmission, Huang Jing was slightly surprised. She also understood that the matter that Qinyu wanted to ask might be rather secretive. Lady Huang Jing, the two of you can chat first. I still have matters to discuss with this Qin Yu later. Seeing the expressions of Qin Yu and Huang Jing, Black Dragon Tanjio guessed that the two of them had a secret matter to discuss. Thus, he immediately walked several miles away from them. A series of ripples appeared in the space surrounding Huang Jing. Immediately, the surrounding space was controlled by Huang Jing. Qin Yu, if there's anything that you want to say, feel free to say it. In this domain, outsiders will definitely not be able to hear our conversation, said Huang Jing with a light smile. I truly wish to know what you want to ask me. Qin Yu took a small breath, and then stared at Huang Jing. Huang Jing also felt that the atmosphere was unusual. The smile on her face was no longer present. Miss Huang Jing, I merely wish to ask about the Divine Realm's 8 great families. The families that the 8 great sage emperors belong to. What are their surnames? Is there anyone with the surname Jiang? Which power is it? Qin Yu asked in a single breath. After he finished asking, Qin Yu felt that both of his hands were slightly trembling. Even his muscles were slightly trembling as he stood there. Nervous. Qin Yu truly felt very nervous. He merely looked at Huang Jing and waited for her answer. Huang Jing's expression slightly changed. Looking at Qin Yu, her pair of curved willowy eyebrows knitted together. Puzzled, she asked, You're asking about the surnames of the 8 great families? Why are you asking this? Qin Yu's face was slightly red. He felt as if he was an ant on top of a pot. Miss Huang Jing, I merely wish to know. This matter is very important to me. Can you tell me exactly which 8 surnames are there? And which one is the surname Jiang? Qin Yu repeatedly asked. At the same time, the speed of his speech became faster and faster. Even Huang Jing was able to sense the sense of urgency brought forth by Qin Yu. I'm sorry, I'm too anxious. Miss Huang Jing, if this matter is too important to tell me, I won't force you. If you're able to tell me, then I'm begging you. Please, can you please tell me this? Qin Yu looked at Huang Jing with longing. Huang Jing was silent for a few breaths of time. Then she smiled slightly. All right, I'll tell you this matter. However, I hope that you won't spread this matter outside. The surnames of the 8 great families are not allowed to be spread casually. Thank you. I definitely won't spread this matter outside. I definitely won't. Qin Yu repeatedly promised. Qin Yu naturally knew that the surnames of the 8 great families were not allowed to be spread casually. At this moment, for Huang Jing to tell him, Qin Yu felt grateful towards Huang Jing. The 8 great families of the Divine Realm were born when the Divine Realm was born. The surnames of the 8 great families are only known to the upper echelons of the Divine Realm. As for the surname Jiang that you mentioned, it is indeed one of the surnames of the 8 great families. When Huang Jing said this, she smiled slightly at Qin Yu. At this moment, Qin Yu's deep and serene eyes were as dazzling as the resplendent stars. As expected, Qin Yu felt as if his heart was hanging by a thread. His entire being was in a state of nervousness. Huang Jing continued. The surnames of the 8 great families of the Divine Realm are Huangfu Tang, Mu Jiang, Duanmu, Shintu Putai and Zhou. The utmost East Sage Emperor's family is the Huangfu family. A thought flashed through Qin Yu's mind. The eastern regions of the Divine Realm are the sphere of influence of the Huangfu family. Then, he threw this thought to the depths of his mind. Qin Yu continued to stare at Huang Jing. He was looking forward to finding out which family the Jiang family was. The 8 great lands of the Divine Realm are the northern continent's floating snow city, the southern continent's light lens city, the eastern continent's Mount Dazzling Gold, the western continent's Blazing Mountain, the northwestern Thunder Punishment City, the northeastern Forest Ocean City, the southeastern Underground City, and the southwestern Jade Wave Lake. Huang Jing finished speaking in a single breath. Then she smiled at Qin Yu. Seeing that Huang Jing didn't say anything, Qin Yu couldn't help but say anxiously, Miss Huang Jing. Huang Jing smiled. I know you're anxious. This Jiang family is the utmost North Sage Emperor's family of the 8 great families of the Divine Realm. Almost all of the Jiang family's clansmen live in the floating snow city. Qin Yu, are you satisfied? Floating snow city, floating snow city. In an instant, Qin Yu's mind was filled with the 3 words floating snow city. The blood in his body felt as if it was boiling. At this moment, Qin Yu seemed to have lost the ability to think. When Huang Jing saw that Qin Yu's skin had turned red, and he was in a dazed state, she couldn't help but be surprised. Qin Yu's body trembled. Then he sobered up. He immediately looked at Huang Jing and said anxiously, "Miss Huang Jing, I would like to ask if you know a girl called Jiang Li." "Jiang Li? Hey, you know little sister Jiang Li too?" Huang Jing was surprised. "Don't tell me that you're also chasing after little sister Jiang Li." Chapter 528. When Qin Yu heard Huang Jing's question, he suddenly woke up from his stupor. The relationship between him and Lear couldn't be known to outsiders yet. His current strength was too weak. Qin Yu immediately asked, "Chasing after Jiang Li? Miss Huang Jing, why do you say that? Could it be that there are a lot of people chasing after Jiang Li?" "Oh." Huang Jing looked at Qin Yu suspiciously. Qin Yu felt a lingering fear in his heart. If he did not wake up from his stupor when Huang Jing questioned him, he might have really blurted it out. "Miss Huang Jing, what are you thinking about?" Qin Yu said with a faint smile. In a short moment, Qin Yu's emotions had completely calmed down. Huang Jing glanced at Qin Yu a few times, and then said, "Of course there are a lot of people chasing after Sister Jiang Li. This involves a big secret. I will not tell you about it for now." "Involves a big secret? What secret is so mysterious?" Qin Yu smiled. Huang Jing shook her head and did not say anything. Actually, this secret was not a big secret. After all, almost all the upper echelons of the divine realm knew about it. Otherwise, there would not be so many heavenly deities chasing after Jiang Li. However, Huang Jing did not want to tell this secret to Qin Yu. "Actually, Sister Jiang Li is quite pitiful." Huang Jing sighed. Qin Yu's heart trembled. What happened to Li Er? How was she pitiful? However, Qin Yu pretended to be curious and asked, "Jiang Li is pitiful? How is she pitiful?" Huang Jing shook her head and sighed. Jiang Li is a member of the Jiang family in the North Pole. Her status can be considered high. Logically speaking, she should be able to live a carefree life. After all, forced marriages are very rare nowadays. In the divine realm, there are also very few people who crazily like someone. However, ever since that shocking battle, Sister Jiang Li's situation has not been good. There are a lot of people chasing after her, and many of them have extremely high statuses. With so many people chasing after her, does this mean that she is charming? If that is the case, then it would be great. The most tragic thing is that among this large group of people chasing after Sister Jiang Li, not many of them actually like Sister Jiang Li. Huang Jing sighed. A group of people who did not like her, but chased after her. This was indeed sad. Qin Yu felt a burst of anger rising from the bottom of his heart, but he tried his best to maintain a calm expression on his face. "Miss Huang Jing, those people don't like Jiang Li. How can they pursue her? It's all for the chance to become a deity king." Humph, that group of people all wanted to become the new god king. Little sister Jiang Li is truly pitiful. If she were to marry any of them, then, fortunately there's still senior Jiang Lan to help little sister Jiang Li. Otherwise, little sister Jiang Li would have already been forced to marry someone else. Huang Jing sighed. Qin Yu's heart trembled. Marry and become someone's wife. These words made Qin Yu's heart tighten. Although he knew that this had not happened, just thinking about it made Qin Yu's heart tighten. Qin Yu didn't know what he would do if Li Er really became someone else's wife. Uncle Lan Li Er. Qin Yu clenched his teeth tightly. At this moment, it was as if his determination had been engraved onto his soul. Li Er, persevere for a bit longer. When I possess sufficient strength, I will definitely openly step into the floating snow city. The current Qin Yu needed to endure hardships and train diligently. He would only display his splendor in the future after he had accomplished something. Miss Huang Jing, I, Qin Yu, am endlessly grateful for what you've told me today. Qin Yu bowed to express his thanks once again. Huang Jing immediately narrowed her eyes with a smile. It's nothing. When you arrive at Mount Dazzling Gold in the future, you will also know about these things. Huang Jing turned around and looked to the nine-headed black dragon Tangio in the distance. This Tangio said that he has something to discuss with you. You can discuss it with him now, Huang Jing said with a smile. At the same time, she retrieved her spatial domain. His short scarlet hair stood erect like steel needles. Under his scarlet sharp eyebrows were a pair of gloomy and baleful eyes. The nine-headed black dragon Tanjio, with the appearance of a lean youth, was standing on an open space, with a cold expression on his face. The mountain wind of the ravine whistled past and blew onto his body. However, Tanjio's appearance did not change in the slightest. This Qinyu, I hope that he will not fight to the death with me. Tanjio had a matter that caused him to feel vexed. Qinyu's identity. From Tanjio's point of view, Qinyu possessed a high-quality heavenly divine artifact, and also knew the extraordinary ability, so close yet worlds apart. On top of that, Qinyu had also said that he had a master. Today he, Tanjio, was planning to kill Qinyu. However, at the final moment, his plan was ruined by Huang Jing. However, Tanjio also started to worry. If Qinyu were to inform the mysterious master behind Qinyu of this matter, and have that master kill him, what should he do? His desire to kill Qinyu was something that Qinyu had definitely sensed in the Six Directions extermination formation. Tanjio believed that Qinyu would definitely retaliate. Since Qinyu was going to retaliate, then he must destroy Qinyu from the very beginning. Kill Qinyu? The scene of Huang Jing easily breaking through his strongest offensive formation appeared in Tanjio's mind. He gave up on that idea in his heart. With Huang Jing present, it was simply impossible for him to kill Qinyu. There's only a single method left, Tanjio thought in his heart. Tanjio, didn't you have something to discuss with Qinyu? Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice sounded from beside him. Tanjio was slightly startled as he looked to the side. Huang Jing, who was still far away from him earlier, had actually arrived beside him. Tanjio immediately bowed slightly. Lady Huang Jing, the matter that I have to discuss with him is very short. Please wait a moment. After saying that, Tanjio turned into a blur and arrived beside Qinyu in a short moment. Tanjio, go ahead and speak. Qinyu looked to the nine-headed black dragon Tanjio with a light smile on his face. Qinyu was also very curious about this Tanjio. A nine-headed black dragon was actually able to transform into a youngster after transforming into a human form. Spatial ripples spread out from the nine-headed black dragon Tanjio's surroundings. The spatial ripples also covered an area of 100 meters. Spatial domain. Qinyu did not retreat at all. That was because he believed that Tanjio before him had tasted his teleportation ability and would not do anything stupid. Qinyu, I merely wanted to apologize to you. Tanjio bowed and said with a smile on his face. Apologize? Qinyu looked to Tanjio in confusion. Did this Tanjio have some sort of problem with his head? Could it be that he wanted to apologize for killing him earlier? Was this something that could be solved with merely an apology? Of my 3 subordinates, you've killed Xionghe, seriously injured the other 2, and even destroyed a low-quality heavenly divine artifact. As the leader of the Black Dragon Pool, I had no choice but to come out and take care of you. If I were to let you go, how would I be able to convince the others? Tanjio raised his scarlet eyebrows and continued. If I were to not kill you, no one would be convinced by me. Later on, I used the Six Directions extermination formation to attack you. However, it was broken through by that Lady Huang Jing. The nearly 1,000,000 deities of my Black Dragon Pool would also understand that it is not that I do not wish to avenge my subordinates. Rather, I do not have the ability to avenge them. You cannot blame me for this. Tanjio looked to Qinyu. Qinyu, I presume you understand the meaning behind my words now. Qinyu sneered in his heart. Aren't you trying to make me think that you, Tanjio, were forced to kill me, Qinyu? Do you not have the desire to kill me? Tanjio, I am able to understand your difficulties. As the leader of the Black Dragon Pool, there is nothing wrong with doing this. Qinyu said in a very considerate manner. Qinyu, for you to be able to understand me like this, I also feel a lot more relaxed. Tanjio chuckled. However, Tanjio was still skeptical in his heart. He did not believe that Qinyu would let him off so easily. Qinyu continued. Tanjio, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Qinyu, I am someone who is unable to keep my mouth shut. Earlier, after finding out that you possessed the remarkable ability so close, yet worlds apart, I was unable to restrain my mouth, and told this matter to my trusted aide. Tanjiro said in succession. I am truly sorry. However, Chinyu, you can rest assured. This trusted aide of mine is much more tight-lipped than me. As long as I am here, he will definitely not spread this matter. Of course I believe in Brother Tanjiro, Chinyu said with a light smile. However, Chinyu was cursing angrily in his heart. Humph! Wasn't this Tanjiro threatening me that if I were to kill him, his trusted aide would spread the news of my so close, yet worlds apart remarkable ability? Tanjiro said to Chinyu. Chinyu, you're so close, yet worlds apart remarkable ability is truly extraordinary. If all the heavenly deities in the divine realm were to find out about it, who knows how many ambitious heavenly deities would risk their lives to have designs on you. There are a lot of heavenly deities in the divine realm who are willing to take risks. Chinyu grew even more furious. Tanjiro's intention was very clear. If he were to die and the news of so close, yet worlds apart was to be leaked, it would attract a large number of ambitious heavenly deities from the divine realm to come and deal with him. Willing to take risks. However, since it's taking risks, one must be prepared to die. It is not that easy to kill me, Chinyu said with a light smile. That's right, that's also what I think. Tanjiro nodded. Suddenly, Ha, Black Dragon. I've heard that even your Black Dragon Palace has been burned down by someone. An insolent roar was heard. That roar resonated through the heaven and earth, like the rumbling of thunder. A robust man with bulging muscles and a height even more frightening than Xiong-hei flew down from the sky above the ravine. Big brother, it's not only the Black Dragon Palace, even the other 3 palaces have been burned down. Another robust man with a curly beard also flew down from the sky above the ravine. I've heard that it was done by a heavenly deity who is proficient in setting up formations. I truly wish to experience that. Another robust man flew down from the ravine. These 3 robust men with rock-like muscles, a stature even larger than Xiong-hei and auras 10 times more tyrannical than Xiong-hei's, were practically the same in appearance. What a tyrannical aura! Chinyu immediately turned his gaze toward these 3 men. These 3 robust men, I reckon they're 3 mid-level heavenly deities. There was a strange aspect about these 3 robust men. That was all 3 of them had purple pupils. When the 9-headed black dragon Tanjiro saw the 3 men flying over, he started to frown. At the same time, he immediately created 3 clones from his body. The 3 black dragons that were created all held a long stick in their hands. Chapter 529. When Chinyu saw Tanjiro's reaction, his brows started to frown. Were these 3 boars Tanjiro's enemies? The 3 purple-eyed robust men landed on the ground in succession. The leading purple-eyed robust man looked to the original location of the Black Dragon Palace and the other palaces. He started to laugh loudly. It would appear that what we've heard is true. Those palaces have all been burned to nothingness. A Black Dragon. You've truly lost a great deal of face this time around. There's a formation here. Could it be that it's the formation set up by that heavenly deity proficient in formations? A purple-eyed robust man standing at the very back walked toward the great formation array that Chinyu had set up with a face filled with excitement. That great formation array was a killing array that Chinyu had set up. It was capable of shooting out white pure flames. Third brother, be careful. The leading purple-eyed robust man shouted. I'm fine. After saying that third brother directly stepped into the killing formation. Once he stepped into the killing formation, the entire killing formation was activated. White pure flames immediately filled the entire killing formation. White pure flames. This formation is truly abnormal. Let's go. Even if we were to use our spatial domain to block the white pure flames, it would still be very tiring after a long time. While his voice was still sounding, that third brother had already rushed out from the killing formation. Blocking the white pure flames with spatial domain would also be tiring after a long time? Chinyu cast a puzzled glance at the 9-headed black dragon Tanjiro beside him. Not long ago, when this Tanjiro was in the killing formation, Chinyu had thought that his spatial domain would be able to easily block the white pure flames. However, it would appear that it was not that easy. Thinking about it, the white pure flames were very powerful. If one were to use one's spatial domain to block them, one would definitely have to exhaust a certain amount of soul power. Qinyu, do you know these three? Tanjio looked to Qinyu. Qinyu shook his head. Tanjio looked to the three purple-eyed robust men walking over from afar. He said, "There are three relatively large bandit powers outside of Yuchi City. One is my Black Dragon Pool, the other is Mount Three Forks and Mount Cold Gold. These three boars are the three leaders of Mount Three Forks." Mount Three Forks? So it's them. Qinyu understood. During his days in the Sealfield village, Qinyu had learned about the legends of the three chiefs of Mount Sancha from the surrounding villagers. In the eyes of the villagers of the Sealfield village, the three chiefs of Mount Sancha were three valiant and barbaric heavenly deities. Among the three bandit forces, Cold Gold Mountain had the best reputation. Although Mount Cold Gold had the least amount of bandits, all of them were elites. They rarely robbed, but when they did, they would usually spend a lot of money. Haha, Black Dragon, I haven't seen you in so many years. I didn't even have the chance to spar with you. This time us three brothers happened to pass by and learned that something big had happened here. I guessed that you would definitely appear this time. Haha, I was right. The third brother of the three violet-eyed muscular men laughed loudly. Tanjio himself and his three clones, the four Tanjios, were all coldly looking at the three of them. One of the Tanjios frowned and said, "Barbarian bandit, don't you try to show off your cleverness here. You three brothers have come to my place for two reasons. Firstly, to humiliate me. Secondly, to fight me. If you want to fight, then fight. I am already prepared." Three clones? The leading violet-eyed muscular man frowned and said, "Tanjio, your three clones are going to fight against us three brothers. Could it be that you're actually confident that you'll be able to stop us three brothers with only three clones?" Another man beside the violet-eyed muscular man said, "Big brother, don't waste time with him. Let's go and trample on his three clones first. At that time, this black dragon will naturally become anxious." At this moment, Huang Jing had also walked over to Qinyu's side. "Qinyu, go to the side. These three mid-level heavenly deities all possess pretty good strength. If they were to fight, they would likely affect the others," said Huang Jing to Qinyu with a smile. What a beautiful little sister. Come, get intimate with your three great kings." The third brother of the three leaders of Mount San Forks, Man Bandit, opened his eyes wide. He stared at Huang Jing and shouted strangely. The cold and indifferent Tanjio was also slightly startled. He then looked to Huang Jing. Qinyu also looked to Huang Jing. Take liberties with a high-level heavenly deity? For a high-level heavenly deity, to kill a mid-level heavenly deity was simply an easy task. Neither Qinyu nor Tanjio knew what sort of reaction Huang Jing would have. Seeing the expressions of Qinyu and Tanjio, the three-man brothers also felt that the situation was bad. Immediately, the three-man brothers tried to use their divine awareness to inspect Huang Jing and the others. When they inspected Qinyu, the three-man brothers were puzzled. That was because they discovered that Qinyu possessed the divine energy of a high-level deity. Earlier, they had thought that Qinyu was a heavenly deity. However, when they inspected Huang Jing, the three-man brothers were scared stiff. They were simply unable to see through Huang Jing at all. There were simply no powerful female experts in Yuchi City. Thus, Man Bandit tried to take liberties with Huang Jing earlier. However, who would have expected that he would end up kicking an iron plate? Third brother, impudent. The eldest of the three-man brothers, Man Cho, was the more tactful one among the three brothers. He immediately shouted coldly. The second brother, Man Fan, slightly frowned and said no more. As for the third brother, Man Bandit, he started to mutter. "Motherfucker, a random little girl that we encountered actually turned out to be an expert." Huang Jing's expression turned ugly. Who would dare to take liberties with her when they were in Mount Dazzling Gold? Never would she have expected that she would be taken liberties with by a boar here. Slap your own mouth 10 times. Huang Jing's expression turned cold. She coldly stared at Man Bandit and said coldly. Man Cho cupped his hands and said, "Young lady, my third brother is too impulsive. Young lady, please forgive him. Slapping your own mouth 10 times is a bit excessive. How about this? We three brothers will apologize to young lady and present gifts to express our apology. What do you think? What heavenly deities wanted was face. If you were to slash him with a blade during a battle, he would not mind. However, if you were to have him slap his own mouth, the punishment would be extremely heavy. Huang Jing's gaze suddenly turned even colder. Her gaze was like an ice blade. She fiercely swept her gaze across the three brothers and shouted, "Slap your own mouths 100 times. Otherwise, today will be the day of your deaths." Tanjio was watching the show from the side. As for Qinyu, he sighed in his heart. He never would have expected that Huang Jing, who had a pretty good temperament, would be this frightening when angered. Man Bandit looked to his eldest brother and second brother. He then looked to Huang Jing and snarled, "I am the one who took liberties with you. If you want to kill us, then go ahead. However, do not involve my eldest brother and second brother. Slap your own mouths 100 times, or you three brothers will all die. Enough of your nonsense." Huang Jing's gaze turned cold. Immediately, everyone in the surroundings felt a burst of fear. Huang. Qinyu was about to say something when Huang Jing coldly looked to Qinyu. Qinyu couldn't help but smile bitterly. He no longer said anything. Actually, Qinyu had a very good impression of the three-man brothers. Especially when he saw the three of them, he recalled his good brother from the immortal, devil and demon realm, Purple-Eyed Ox Demon Emperor Mangon. Furthermore, the three of them also had purple eyes and the surname Man. It might even be possible that they were Purple-Eyed Ox Demon Emperors. However, the current Huang Jing had already revealed the might of someone who had been in a high position for many years. Third brother don't. The second brother Man Fan stared at Man Bandit and said solemnly, "If worst comes to worst, us three brothers will fight against this woman. Although we are unable to discover her strength, she might only be a peak mid-level heavenly deity." Mancho also looked to Man Bandit. His gaze had already expressed his intention. Man Bandit shook his head. "This woman is too abnormal. Merely by her aura, I dare say that she should be a high-level heavenly deity. Fuck." Man Bandit cursed angrily. Then he began to ruthlessly slap his own mouth. Pa, 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 pa. The sound was sharp and clear. It was like the sound of leather being whipped. At the time when Man Bandit was ruthlessly slapping his own mouth, he even displayed a simple and honest smile to his two brothers. Merely at this moment, his face had already split open from the slaps. Blood was seeping out from his face. This Man Bandit was simply not showing any mercy when slapping himself. The slaps were extremely heavy. 100. "I'm sorry, I was wrong." Man Bandit's voice was still as loud as a bell. However, Qinyu noticed that Man Bandit's eyes were bloodshot on his face. Huang Jing coldly humphed. After that, Huang Jing calmed herself down and stood beside Qinyu without saying anything. At this moment, Mancho, Man Fan and Man Bandit felt a bit embarrassed. Mancho instead chuckled to ease the atmosphere. He then said to Tanjio, "Black Dragon, us three brothers have come here today with the intention of sparring with you. However, since this young lady is here today, we should. Don't bother about me. If you all want to fight, then fight." Huang Jing berated. Being berated by Huang Jing like this, Mancho's words were interrupted. Mancho's expression became a bit ugly. The three brothers glanced at each other, and then turned around to leave. "Mancho, you three brothers are leaving just like this?" Tanjio ridiculed. Seeing his old neighbor being humiliated like this, Tanjio was extremely happy. Man Bandit opened his eyes wide and shouted at Tanjio, "Humph, us three brothers are in a bad mood today. Originally, we wanted to vent our anger on you. However, as this young lady is here today, we will not disturb you. Tomorrow, we three brothers will come and find you tomorrow." As Man Bandit said those words, he opened his mouth with a sinister expression like a monster's. "Third brother, take care of your wounds," the second brother Man Fan said. Man Bandit slightly nodded. A layer of jade green light appeared on his face, and the wounds on his face disappeared. Tanjio sneered and said, "Vent your anger on me? What a boastful tone. Even if you three brothers were to join hands, you would at the very most only be able to make me send out 3 clones. Yet you're still so arrogant." Tanjio was indeed qualified to be arrogant. After all, he was able to split himself into 9. Haha, this place is so lively. And here I thought that it would only be a battle between low-level heavenly deities. Never would I have expected that the man family's 3 stupid oxen and that 9-headed bug that had been hiding the entire time would all appear. A clear and bright voice sounded. A golden-clothed figure appeared in the sky. Qin Yu raised his head to look. Upon seeing the person who had arrived, the first impression that Qin Yu had was handsome, dashing. The person who had arrived was wearing golden clothes and had the appearance of a youngster. His appearance was very sunny. Upon seeing this youngster, Qin Yu felt that this golden-clothed youngster and the 9-headed black dragon Tangio were polar opposites. Tangio had dark skin. As for this golden-clothed youngster, his skin was as white as an infant's. Tangio's gaze was gloomy and filled with killing intent. This golden-clothed youngster was very sunny and cheerful. Man family's 3 stupid oxen. I only went to find you all to spar. Why did you all always avoid me? Furthermore, you 9-headed bug, I was unable to find you every time I tried to find you. This time around, I have managed to capture you all. None of you will be able to escape. Today, all of you will have to fight against me. The golden-clothed youngster said while laughing loudly. Qin Yu was surprised. Who was this golden-clothed youngster who had suddenly appeared? Judging from his tone, he seemed to be an extraordinary character. Lu Shui. Suddenly, a voice sounded from beside Qin Yu. It was Huang Jing who was standing beside Qin Yu. As for the golden-clothed youngster, who had an excited smile on his face earlier, his gaze suddenly stopped. He looked at Qin Yu in confusion. No, to be exact, he was looking at Huang Jing who was standing beside Qin Yu. The golden-clothed youngster tilted his head and saw Huang Jing, who was standing beside Qin Yu. Ah, big sister. The golden-clothed youngster opened his eyes wide. Big sister. Qin Yu was startled. The 9-headed black dragon Tangio also looked at Huang Jing in astonishment. He then looked at the golden-clothed youngster with an expression of disbelief. As for the 3 Man brothers, they also opened their eyes wide. After a long while, Man Fei muttered, "Never would I have expected that woman to be that battle maniac's big sister. Little brother is so powerful. Never would I have expected that big sister would be even more powerful. Lu Shui, what did you promise me when I left your place? Why did you come out right after I turned around and left?" Huang Jing said in a low voice. The golden-clothed youngster held his head and looked to the surrounding people. He then looked to Qin Yu. His eyes shined. He immediately changed the topic and said, "Big sister, seeing that you're standing so close to this person, you know him? A big sister who usually looks down on men. Why is she so close to a man?" Sure enough, Huang Jing no longer asked about the golden-clothed youngster coming out. She immediately explained. "His name is Qin Yu. I've met him a couple of times." Lu Shui, you must not speak nonsense. Definitely not, definitely not. Hee, I listen to big sister the most. The golden-clothed youngster said. After that, the golden-clothed youngster walked to Qin Yu's side, cupped his hands and said, "Brother Qin Yu, I am one of the 3 great leaders of Yuqi City, Mount Cold Gold's leader, Huangfu Lu Shui. I presume you've heard of my great name. Brother Huangfu, I am Qin Yu. Your big sister has already introduced me." Qin Yu immediately saluted. Only at this moment did Qin Yu come to know that this golden-clothed youngster was actually the leader of one of the 3 great bandit powers of Yuqi City, Mount Cold Gold. However, no matter how he looked at it, he was unable to tell that such a bright youngster was a bandit leader. At the same time, Qin Yu was also puzzled. Huang Jing's surname was Huang. This Huangfu Liushui's surname was Huangfu. Were the 2 of them siblings? Huang Jing smiled apologetically to Qin Yu. Brother Qin Yu, I was originally planning to return from Mount Cold Gold. Now that you're fine, I shall take my leave first. I hope that we can meet again in Mount Dazzling Gold in the future. Miss Huang Jing, when my strength increases in the future, I will definitely go there. Qin Yu immediately said. This Huangfu Liushui's eyes immediately shined. He immediately smiled and said, "Big sister, take care." Chapter 530. Huang Jing glanced at Huangfu Liushui in annoyance. In the end, she instructed, Lu Shui, if you're tired of playing, then don't stay in that desolate Mount Cold Gold. Go back to Mount Dazzling Gold. Yes. Huangfu Lu Shui nodded obediently. However, Huang Jing knew that her words were probably useless. Otherwise, her younger brother would not have run away from home. Given his younger brother's rebellious personality, this was the only way he could persuade him. If he were to use force, the result would be even worse. All right, I'll be leaving now. Qin Yu, farewell. Huang Jing looked at Qin Yu. Qin Yu also saluted. Miss Huang Jing, we will meet again at Mount Dazzling Gold. Huang Jing smiled when she heard Qin Yu's words. Then, she soared into the air and flew towards the east. Few were finally gone. Huangfu Lu Shui laughed happily. No wonder Brother Huangfu possesses a high-quality, heavenly divine artifact. So it turns out that you have an older sister with a high status in Mount Dazzling Gold. Tanjio coldly humphed and said. Tanjio's words contained jealousy. High-quality heavenly divine artifacts. Even on Mount Dazzling Gold, it was likely that only high-level heavenly deities with extremely high statuses would be able to obtain them. As for Tanjio, he had also paid an enormous price in order to luckily obtain a mid-quality heavenly divine artifact. As for Manchou, Manfan and Manfei, although they were all mid-level heavenly deities, the three brothers were only barely able to obtain a low-quality heavenly divine artifact each. As bandits, it was not easy for them to obtain heavenly divine artifacts. Those three low-quality heavenly divine artifacts had already caused Manchou and his brothers to spend a lot of effort. In the divine realm, the majority of low-level heavenly deities do not possess heavenly divine artifacts. That was because heavenly divine artifacts were too precious. This was also the reason why Meiji and Taoist Lu Su were jealous of Xionghe. Xionghe's low-quality heavenly divine artifact, the Spiked Club Mountain Crusher, was originally the weapon of the nine-headed black dragon, Tanjio. Tanjio only bestowed that low-quality heavenly divine artifact to Xionghe after obtaining it. Merely, that low-quality heavenly divine artifact was destroyed by Qin Yu. What? Are you jealous? Huangfu Lu Shui turned his hand and took out a huge axe. The giant axe was entirely golden in color. As soon as the giant axe was taken out, Qin Yu could feel the terrifying momentum contained within the giant axe. If the divine sword Scarlet Blood had a sharp aura, then the giant axe had an incomparably heavy aura. Huangfu Lu Shui caressed the enormous axe in his hand. It was as if he was caressing the skin of his lover. Tanjio, if you're jealous, then just say it. This high-quality heavenly divine artifact is something that I have spent a great deal of effort to obtain. With your status, unless you reach the high-level heavenly deity level and join a power, that power would be able to give you a high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Otherwise, with merely your current strength, you would only be able to obtain a high-quality heavenly divine artifact in your dreams. Tanjio coldly snorted and took a glance at Qin Yu beside him. Tanjio cursed in his heart. Huangfu Lu Shui, if it wasn't for that older sister of yours, I fear that a high-quality heavenly divine artifact would have already been in my hands. Furthermore, I might even have learned the remarkable ability so close, yet worlds apart. What's there to be jealous about? It's not like you're the only one here with a high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Tanjio raised his scarlet brows and said coldly, who else has a high-quality heavenly divine artifact? Huangfu Lu Shui's eyes shined. As for Manchou, Manfan and Manfei, they all looked to Tanjio in amazement. Manfei even said, there's someone with a high-quality heavenly divine artifact? Black Dragon, you'd best not make a ruckus. A high-quality heavenly divine artifact is no ordinary toy. Qin Yu frowned. Sure enough, that Tanjio looked to Qin Yu, pointed to Qin Yu and said, Brother Qin Yu possesses a high-quality heavenly divine artifact that was bestowed to him by Brother Qin Yu's master. It is truly incomparably powerful. Qin Yu was furious in his heart. Tanjio turned to Qin Yu and said apologetically, That's right, Qin Yu. I am a person who is unable to keep my mouth shut. Earlier, I saw that Huangfu Lu Shui was extremely arrogant and felt that it was unfair for you. Thus, I was unable to refrain myself from speaking out. felt that it was unfair for me. At this moment, Qingyu truly didn't know whether or not he should curse this Tanjio for being extremely shameless. Huang Fuliushui's eyes shined. He turned to Qingyu and said, Qingyu, you also possess a high-quality heavenly divine artifact? I used my divine awareness to observe you. The divine energy aura you emitted is only that of a high-level deity. You possess a high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Yet this nine-headed bug did not try to snatch it from you? Huang Fulushui took a glance at Tanjio. I know this nine-headed bug's temperament very well. He would definitely not be able to restrain himself. I have just reached the low-level heavenly deity level. I have yet to transform the divine energy within my body. Qingyu immediately explained. This was the only explanation he could give. The souls of deities and heavenly deities were different from the souls of immortals and mortals. Upon reaching the perfection soul realm, a deity's soul would condense into the soul Jin Dan. As for heavenly deities, their souls would form the nascent soul. The souls of deities and heavenly deities were all material entities that were hidden deep within their minds. It was simply impossible to inspect them. As for the divine energy and heavenly divine energy within one's body, it was very easy to determine. Those with high levels of power could use their divine awareness to obstruct others from inspecting them. As for those with low levels of power, they could only allow others to inspect them. Oh, so that's the case. Huang Fulushui suddenly realized. Soon after, he said in confusion, but you, a mere low-level heavenly deity, were able to block the nine-headed bug with merely a high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Although I am not fond of the nine-headed bug, to be honest, this nine-headed bug's battle prowess is extremely astonishing. Tanjio coldly humphed from the side. It was your big sister who saved me. Qingyu explained. Huang Fulushui immediately understood. He laughed out loud and said, That's right. With my big sister helping out, if this nine-headed bug dared to attack you, it would be courting death. Oh, that's right. Do you really possess a high-quality heavenly divine artifact? That's right. Qingyu admitted. He extended his hand, and the divine sword Scarlet Blood appeared in his hand. This sword is called Scarlet Blood. It is a high-quality heavenly divine artifact. It was bestowed to me by my master. In Qinyu's heart, that craftsman god Cheho Yuan had indeed taught him like a master. Everything in the bewitching god temple was left to Qinyu by Cheho Yuan. It would not be excessive to say that it was bestowed to him by his master. Master, may I know your master's name? Huang Fulushui promptly asked. Perhaps I might know him. Master has ordered me to not mention his name. I am truly sorry. Qinyu said in a slightly apologetic manner. Actually, Cheho Yuan had also left a message for Qinyu. He told Qinyu, his successor, not to be discovered by others. Otherwise, merely his identity as the craftsman god's successor would cause many people to spy on him. Huang Fulushui nodded. He was also someone who had seen the world. He would not have any malicious intentions, just because of a high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Nine-headed bug. And you three stupid oxen. My big sister has already left. There are no outsiders here either. Let's have a great battle here. Huang Fulushui held the enormous golden axe in his hand and waved it about non-stop. Mancho, Manfan and Manfei glanced at each other. The second brother Manfan nodded and humphed. That's fine too. Today, us three brothers had planned to fight against the Black Dragon. Merely our mood was ruined by your big sister. Now that your big sister has left, we can have a great battle. That's right. Fuck. I have a belly full of anger that I have nowhere to vent. Manfei promptly said. Vent your anger? Vent it on me? I also have a belly full of anger right now. Tanjio's expression grew even gloomier. Today he had not had a smooth day. He had just lost a low-level heavenly deity subordinate and was about to kill Qinyu. Furthermore, he had to worry about Qinyu's master coming for revenge. How could he not be sullen? The three-man brothers stood to the side. The three brothers were each holding a trident. These tridents were low-quality heavenly divine artifacts. They were dark red in color and extremely heavy. Huang Fulushui held the enormous golden axe in his hand and stood to the side with a smile on his face. The three-man brothers, Huang Fulushui and the other three were all looking at the nine-headed black dragon Tanjio. At this moment, Tanjio had already used all of his incarnations. 9 Tanjios were standing there. Qin Yu was watching the battle from afar. The three-man brothers, Huang Fulushui and Tanjio, were all mid-level heavenly deities. However, although they were all mid-level heavenly deities, there was a gap between their strength. "I'll go first," Huang Fulushui laughed loudly. At the same time, he tossed the enormous axe in his hand into the sky. That enormous golden axe suddenly grew in size. It was like a large mountain. As for Huang Fulushui himself, his body was emitting a misty golden light. His body streaked across a straight line and instantly rushed toward one of the Tanjios. His metal-like fist was directly smashed toward that Tanjio's head. Immediately, Tanjio and Huang Fulushui began to fight with lightning speed. After images appeared all over the place unceasingly. Boom! The enormous golden axe's blade was close to 10 miles in length. However, the blade of the axe was still extremely thin and sharp. 10 miles in length, how enormous was that? The enormous golden axe was chopped down. Its speed was extremely fast. In an instant, it ruthlessly chopped toward the other Tanjio. That Tanjio held the black stick in his hand and could only forcibly block it. Bang! Like an earthquake, Qin Yu felt that the ground was shaking. An enormous crack appeared on the ground. As for that Tanjio that was chopped by the axe, he was chopped into a deep ravine. After a while, an afterimage rushed out from the deep ravine. It was precisely that clone that was chopped into the ravine. At this moment, this clone had a pale complexion. He was seriously injured. You only know how to rely on your high-quality heavenly divine artifact. That clone Tanjio raised his scarlet eyebrows and shouted angrily, "Huang Fulushui, even if you possess a high-quality heavenly divine artifact, you will still be trampled upon by me." Of the 9 great clones, 6 of them rushed toward Huang Fulushui at the same time. As for the remaining 3 clones, they began to fight the three-man brothers one-on-one. Tanjio, the three-man brothers and Huang Fulushui were all mid-level heavenly deities. The 3 of them were all capable of forming spatial domains. Thus, it was possible that they were familiar with each other. They knew that if they were to use spatial domains, it would only be a waste of their soul's energy. Thus, with great tacit understanding, none of them used their spatial domains. 6 against 1. Holding the enormous golden axe in his hand, Huang Fulushui's entire body turned golden. His fists, legs, knees, elbows, any part of his body was capable of frantically attacking. The enormous golden axe in his hand was chopping down with lightning speed. What a valiant body! Qin Yu gasped in admiration. He had personally witnessed Huang Fulushui shattering the high-quality divine armor worn by one of Tanjio's clones with a single punch. Qin Yu knew very well that when a mid-quality heavenly deity used a divine artifact, their defensive power would be astonishingly strong. However, Huang Fulushui still managed to shatter it. 6 clones attacking one. Yet this Huang Fulushui's speed is actually able to keep up with them. This Huang Fulushui's speed is truly astonishing. Furthermore, that enormous axe, those clones simply do not dare to block it. Qin Yu was able to clearly see that Huang Fulushui was completely at an advantage against 6 clones. Qin Yu turned around to look at the other battlefield. 3 clones against the three-man brothers. 1 clone against 1. It would appear that the three-man brothers hold a slight advantage. That's true. Tanjio's clones possess mid-quality heavenly divine artifacts. Although it's only a part of a set of mid-quality heavenly divine artifacts, it's still very powerful. As for the three-man brothers, they only possess low-quality heavenly divine artifacts. The three-man brothers roared angrily and frantically attacked. The 3 Tanjios were also trying their hardest to block them. This battle continued for an entire day. In the end, Tanjio seemed to be unable to continue on. After all, it was indeed very difficult for him to fight against 4 people by himself. Especially Huang Fulushui. Tanjio knew that even if he were to fight Huang Fulushui one-on-one, he would only be able to gain a slight advantage. And now, he had only sent out 6 clones. Thus, he could only be trampled upon. Roar! Tanjio suddenly roared angrily. 9 clones gathered toward the center with lightning speed. After that, the 9 Tanjios gathered into a single person. At the same time, the 9 black sticks gathered into a 9-section whip. Tanjio was able to clearly sense the vigorous and powerful energy within his body. Huangfu Lushui and the 3 of you, come again if you have the ability. Holding the 9-section whip in his hand, Tanjio shouted angrily. Haha, you're finally going all out. Delightful, delightful. Huangfu Lushui charged over while laughing loudly. As for the 3-man brothers, they merely howled and charged over once again. 4 against 1. Qing Yu finally experienced the true strength of this Tanjio. After the 9 great clones fused into one, Tanjio's strength and speed both increased by a lot. Especially the 9-section whip in his hand. The 9-section whip could be both soft and hard. It could turn to attack, and turn into a long stick to smash people. It could also be half soft and half hard. The 9-section whip could also be extended to bind people. Furthermore, the 9-section whip could also be broken apart and split into several sections to attack. Being held by the current Tanjio, Qing Yu felt dazzled. Huangfu Lushui and the 3-man brothers might not be able to coordinate very well. Even though they were fighting 4 against 1, they were only able to gain a slight advantage and were simply unable to defeat Tanjio. His energy is completely condensed into his weapon. His attack power is completely condensed. Each of his kicks and each of his punches possess extremely astonishing attack power. There are no gorgeous moves. However, their power is extremely great. The majority of Qing Yu's attention was focused on Huangfu Lushui. After fighting for 3 days and 3 nights, in the end, Huangfu Lushui and the others had no choice but to admit that even if they were to fight for several hundred more years, it would still be impossible for them to win. Thus, they could only give up. Ha, delightful, delightful. With a smile on his face, Huangfu Lushui walked over to Qing Yu's side. Qing Yu, how about coming to my Mount Cold Gold to play? Qing Yu had his own plans. He immediately said, I still have things to do. I'll go when I have the time. That's fine too. Huangfu Lushui nodded his head. He then secretly said to Qing Yu via divine awareness voice transmission. Qing Yu, I must remind you that you should quickly go to Mount Dazzling Gold and work hard to chase after my sister. Perhaps you might become my brother-in-law. Truly, I feel that my sister treats you pretty well. You are very promising. Qing Yu was startled. Seeing Qing Yu's expression, Huangfu Lushui immediately started laughing loudly. While laughing loudly, Huangfu Lushui flew away. Chapter 531. Qing Yu could only shake his head and smile. Qing Yu was able to tell that at the very most, Huang Jing had a favorable impression of him. Furthermore, Qing Yu believed that Huang Jing ought to be related to the utmost East Sage Emperor's Huangfu clan. Huang Jing and Huangfu Lushui are siblings. The utmost East Sage Emperor is also from the Huangfu clan. Perhaps this Miss Huang Jing's real name ought to be Huangfu Jing. Qing Yu thought in his heart. Suddenly, Qing Yu's gaze was attracted by the 3-man brothers. The leader of the 3-man brothers, Man Chou, was walking toward Qing Yu. As for Man Fan who stood behind him, he had an indifferent expression. As for Man Fei, he was muttering. It seemed like he didn't want to speak with Qing Yu. The eldest, Man Chou, walked over to Qing Yu and said with a smile, Brother Qing Yu, I am Man Chou. Let me introduce myself. This is my second brother, Man Fan. This is my third brother, Man Fei. This is our first time meeting. In the future, if you have the opportunity, please come to our Mount San Cha to stroll around. We will definitely receive you warmly. From Man Chou's point of view, although this Qing Yu had just become a low-level heavenly deity, his attainments in formation arrays were exceptional. Furthermore, he possessed a high-quality heavenly divine artifact. Furthermore, he was related to Huang Jing. Thus, his background was definitely not ordinary. This sort of person must be properly befriended. Man Fan slightly nodded to Qing Yu. He saluted and said, Man Fan pays his respects to Brother Qing Yu. As for Man Fei, he cupped his hands unwillingly. My third brother is vulgar. Brother Qing Yu, please don't mind him too much, said Man Chou with a smile. Qing Yu felt strange. These 3 brothers' appearances were practically the same. However, their temperaments were completely different. Man Cho was a bit tactful. Man Fan was a bit cold. As for Man Fei, his temperament was like his appearance. Brother Man Cho, when I see the three of you, I recall a good friend of mine from the lower realms. I would like to ask, are the three of you from the immortal devil and demon realm? With a smile on his face, Qin Yu inquired. A trace of surprise flashed through Man Chao's eyes. The indifferent Man Fan also looked at Qin Yu. As for that barbarian bandit, his reaction was the most intense. His eyes immediately opened wide. He stared at Qin Yu and said, "Ah, Qin Yu, you're also from the immortal devil and demon realm? Ha! Then when you were in the immortal devil and demon realm, have you heard of us, the three great ox demon emperors? Oh, that's right, when did you ascend? When you ascended, who was the ox demon emperor? Mantian Manyu? When we ascended, there were only 2 super divine beasts in the ox clan." Barbarian bandit said so much in one breath. Only after seeing Qin Yu's astonished expression did barbarian bandit stop. He embarrassedly smiled and said, "To see brothers from the immortal devil and demon realm. Haha, I was a bit too excited." Qin Yu was completely certain in his heart. These 3 man brothers were indeed from the immortal devil and demon realm. Moreover, their true forms should be purple-eyed ox demon kings. Qin Yu had never heard of Mantian and Manyu. Qin Yu knew that these 3 man brothers had ascended for who knows how long. Several billion years, or even over 10 billion years was possible. As for the people from that era, he had never heard of them. Brother Man Fei, I ascended not long ago. The difference between you and me is very large. Therefore, I have never heard of Mantian and Manyu. Qin Yu explained. Oh, that's normal. Your realm is lower than ours. It's also possible that you ascended after us by several billion years. At this moment, Barbarian Bandit's face was filled with smiles. He appeared to be a lot more cordial. Mancho had a face full of smiles. So Brother Qin Yu is also a brother from the immortal, devil and demon realm. That's truly great. How about Brother Qin Yu join our Mount Sancha? Your status will be the same as us 3 brothers. This Mancho actually went along with the flow, and even started to invite people. No, I still have things to do. Moreover, I'm used to being alone. Qin Yu refused. After that, Man Fei and Qin Yu talked for a long time. Finally, the 3 brothers left. This Man Fei is rather straightforward. The second brother Man Fan is steady and cold. As for the eldest brother Man Cho, Qin Yu suddenly felt that he could not see through the eldest brother Man Cho. In the vast sky, the 3 man brothers were flying in the sky. Big brother, I was planning to have a good drink with Brother Qin Yu. Why did you send me a divine awareness voice transmission to urge me to leave earlier? Man Fei seemed to be a bit angry and said in dissatisfaction. Man Cho smiled and said, Third brother, don't trust others so easily. It's still hard to say whether or not that Qin Yu is from the immortal, devil and demon realm. What do you mean? Man Fei opened his eyes wide. Man Cho continued. In the divine realm, us 3 brothers are from the immortal, devil and demon realm. Although not many people know about it, it can't be considered a secret. If this Qin Yu is someone with intentions, he would still be able to find out. Perhaps he purposely said that to us. Originally, I suspected that he had some intentions. That's why I immediately invited him to our Mount Sancha to see how he would react. However, this Qin Yu refused my invitation. In that case, he might not have any bad intentions. Man Cho said with a light smile. Then it's settled. Man Fei immediately said. However, one must always be on guard against others. This Qin Yu appeared out of nowhere. We must wait for a period of time and carefully observe his behavior. Only then will we be able to determine his character. Man Cho said with a light smile. Third brother, what big brother said is reasonable. Man Fan, who had been silent the entire time, spoke. Man Fei snorted a couple times and mumbled for a long time. However, the 3 of them were blood brothers. Their relationship was incomparably deep. Thus, they naturally wouldn't have any ill feelings. Under the attentive gazes of many people from the Black Dragon Pool, Qin Yu was flying in the sky. He flew away from the Black Dragon Pool. Facing the gentle mountain breeze, he flew through the mountain forest. Qin Yu turned around and took a glance at the location of the Black Dragon Pool. That nine-headed black dragon Tangio has been hiding in the Black Dragon Pool for all these years. According to what Huang Jing said to this Tangio, it seems that he has come for a certain treasure. Qin Yu's heart was already filled with killing intent toward Tangio. The remarkable ability teleportation was truly too frightening. Qin Yu did not wish for others to know about it at all. However, it was not that easy to kill Tangio. Firstly, Tangio was a mid-level heavenly deity. Secondly, this Tangio possessed 9 clones. As long as a single one of his clones managed to escape, it would be a failure on the verge of success. Let's enter the bottom of the Black Dragon Pool first, and properly investigate what sort of treasure is at the bottom of the pool. Then, let's see if there's an opportunity to kill this Tangio. Qin Yu had already made the decision in his heart. The dark curtain of night, originating from the utmost northern region's floating snow city, covered the entire divine realm. The entire divine realm was covered in darkness. The night of darkness was as cold as water. Within the ice-cold mountain breeze, within the tranquil valley of the Black Dragon Pool, a figure flashed like a phantom and arrived at the edge of the Black Dragon Pool. It was Qin Yu who wore a black gown. When using teleportation, the guards of the Black Dragon Pool's valley can simply be ignored. Qin Yu had a slight smile on his face. His gaze turned to the Black Dragon Pool before him. The Black Dragon Pool had a circumference of 100 miles. One couldn't see the end of the Black Dragon Pool with a single glance. All one could see was boundless water. Strangely, the surface of the Black Dragon Pool had remained tranquil the entire time. Generally, large lakes would have waves even if there was no wind. However, even if there was wind in the Black Dragon Pool, there would not be any waves. It was indeed very strange. That Tangio is likely to be extremely vigilant. Once someone enters the Black Dragon Pool, they might be discovered by Tangio. Qin Yu was extremely careful. He immediately spread out the spatial energy from his universal world. In the divine realm, the spatial energy from the universal world was obstructed by the space of the divine realm. Thus, the spatial energy was only able to cover an area of 100 meters. If it were to extend to one side, it would only cover an area of 200 meters. The spatial energy permeated into the bottom of the pool. The area covered by the spatial energy was Qin Yu's spatial domain. Although in terms of might, it was likely to be inferior to a mid-level heavenly deity's spatial domain, it was at least half as powerful. Furthermore, controlling the water flow at the bottom of the pool to not fluctuate was an extremely easy task. Qin Yu lightly smiled. Then, like a fish, he dove into the Black Dragon Pool. Strangely, although he dove into the Black Dragon Pool, by relying on his spatial domain, the water of the Black Dragon Pool did not fluctuate in the slightest. The bottom of the Black Dragon Pool was pitch black like ink. However, anyone from the divine realm would be able to easily see through the darkness. At the bottom of the Black Dragon Pool, Qin Yu continued to extend his spatial energy. He was unceasingly inspecting the Black Dragon Pool. The Black Dragon Pool was truly enormous. Merely its depth was already 1,000 meters. As for its circumference, it was also 100 miles. Qin Yu was carefully inspecting the bottom of the pool. This Black Dragon Pool is truly strange. It's such an enormous lake. However, there's actually not a single living thing in it. There are only some underwater plants. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. Such a strange scene caused Qin Yu to be even more certain that there ought to be some sort of treasure in this place. Qin Yu was a very persistent person. He continued to use his spatial energy to inspect every inch of the Black Dragon Pool. The circumference of 100 miles was truly too large. Qin Yu was only able to inspect a circumference of 100 meters. Using this sort of method, Qin Yu inspected for 3 entire days. However, he had only managed to inspect a very small portion of the Black Dragon Pool. Merely to travel from one side of the Black Dragon Pool to the other, even with the fastest speed, would require 2 hours of effort. In fact, it would require several hundred trips in order to completely inspect the Black Dragon Pool. After a month, Qin Yu had arrived at the other corner of the Black Dragon Pool. Strange, I've completely inspected this Black Dragon Pool. Yet why am I unable to find it? Qinyu was puzzled. In the past month, Qinyu had not dared to use his divine awareness to inspect the Black Dragon Pool. Firstly, it was because there was a great limit to the range of one's divine awareness underwater. Secondly, he was worried that he would be discovered by Tangio. However, the universal world's spatial energy was different. Generally, when mid-level heavenly deities controlled the divine realm's spatial energy, they would cause quite a large commotion and attract the attention of others. The reason why they would cause a large commotion was because their ability to control the divine realm's spatial energy was too weak. If it was a god king controlling the spatial domain, others would not be able to sense it. The same principle. The universal world was created by Qinyu. The spatial energy that Qinyu controlled from the universal world was definitely not inferior to the spatial energy that god kings controlled from the divine realm. Even if the universal world's spatial energy covered Tangio, Tangio would not feel any discomfort. Thus, he would naturally not be able to discover Qinyu. This was also the reason why Qinyu dared to spend an entire month to inspect the entire Black Dragon Pool with great fanfare. Amen. I've searched the entire Black Dragon Pool, but was unable to find Tangio. It would appear that I can only wait. Qinyu was frowning. He was standing in the middle of the pool. However, his body was not wet in the slightest. From the conversation between Miss Huang Jing and Tangio, that Lu Yushi also knows that the treasure is here. I presume that Lu Yushi will also come here in the future. Qinyu nodded in his heart. He immediately made his decision. Qinyu disappeared from the bottom of the Black Dragon Pool. Inside the universal world, Qinyu was standing on top of a tall mountain in the universal world. Amen. The universal world's spatial energy has been extending outside the Black Dragon Pool the entire time. If there is any movement in the Black Dragon Pool's water, I will naturally know about it. Qinyu was certain that once that Lu Yushi entered the Black Dragon Pool, he would likely not be too careful. That was because both Lu Yushi and Tangio knew of each other's existence. Even if Qinyu was as careful as Lu Yushi, when Lu Yushi entered Tangio's storage place, he would definitely cause some movement. I can only wait for him to come. Qinyu sat cross-legged on the flat ground on the mountain top. This was also the only method that could be used. Suddenly, Uncle Fu appeared behind Qinyu. The restriction of the universal world was too small. Like the mortal realm, Uncle Fu's speed was simply extremely fast here. When Qinyu entered the Black Dragon Pool, he had already had Uncle Fu enter his universal world. Even the Jianglan's realm was placed in his universal world by Qinyu. Return to the Jianglan's realm, Qinyu said to Uncle Fu. Qinyu and Uncle Fu directly disappeared from the mountain top. Merely, a little green pagoda appeared on the mountain top. It was the true body of the Jianglan's realm. However, for it to be placed in the universal world, Qinyu was extremely reassured. The universal world was created by Qinyu. Even though Qinyu was in the Jianglan's realm, he was still able to sense the universal world's spatial energy that had spread out from the divine realm's Black Dragon Pool. In the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm, Qinyu began to train in peace. The time in the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm was 100 times that of the outside world. What Qinyu lacked the most right now was time. Divine Realm Black Dragon Pool. It had been close to 1,000 years since the last great battle. Currently, 3 new palaces had been built in the Black Dragon Pool. The Black Dragon Palace in the center was even more solemn than before. Night. A blur streaked across the sky. A man appeared beside the Black Dragon Pool. Short silver hair, silver eyebrows. His height was only 170 centimeters. He looked like a youngster. This man was precisely the head commander of the entire Yuchi City's army. His status was second only to the Yuchi City's city master Lu Yushi. Lu Yushi and Tangio had nearly the same build. Even their attire was nearly the same. Tangio had black skin whereas Lu Yushi had white skin. Other than their skin color and hair color, other than their eyes, the two of them were practically identical in all other aspects. Counting the days, it's about time. At the very most, there's still a couple more years. Lu Yushi looked to the Black Dragon Pool and lightly smiled. That idiot Tangio. What use is there in hiding down there the entire time? That seven-colored magnificent lotus cannot be plucked until it's time to pluck it. Lu Yushi had never understood why Tanjiro would wait in the secret area at the bottom of the pool. With a leap, Lu Yushi directly dove into the black dragon pool. Lu Yushi was not as cautious as Chinyu. That was because Lu Yushi wanted to be discovered by Tanjiro, so that Tanjiro would open the passage to the secret area at the bottom of the pool. Inside the universal world, Chinyu suddenly appeared. He raised his head and looked to the sky. With a slight smile on his face, he said, "After training for close to 100,000 years, this day has finally arrived. I shall see exactly what the Black Dragon Pool contains." Chinyu disappeared from the universal world. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at the Black Dragon Pool. Chinyu's body was surrounded by the universal world's spatial energy in an area of over 100 meters. Chinyu's body was flickering unceasingly. Every time he flickered, he would travel over 100 meters. In a blink of an eye, he had already traveled over 10 miles. Unlike last time when Chinyu had to carefully inspect the bottom of the pool, this time around, Chinyu's speed was extremely fast. Chapter 532. After using teleportation to travel a distance, Chinyu suddenly stopped. At this moment, the distance between Chinyu and Lu Yushi could not be considered to be too far. Chinyu did not dare to approach. Else, Lu Yushi might discover Chinyu. Using his spatial power, Chufeng carefully sensed the ripples of the pond water and determined Lu Yushi's location. After determining Lu Yushi's location time and time again, Chinyu naturally saw the trajectory of Lu Yushi's movements in his mind. Directly rushing toward the center of the pond, Chinyu was slightly puzzled. Could it be that Tanjiro, who has been hiding in the Black Dragon Pool the entire time, is also at the center of the pond? Chinyu stopped thinking about it and began to fly toward the center of the pond. After flying for a while at the bottom of the pond, Chinyu sensed another ripple of water. That ripple originated from the center of the Black Dragon Pool. Furthermore, that ripple of water was extremely regular. Of the two ripples of water, one originated from Lu Yushi. As for the other ripple of water, it was naturally Tanjiro's. Back then, I searched the entire Black Dragon Pool, but was unable to find him. I truly do not know where he is hiding. Chinyu quietly approached Tanjiro. The plants at the bottom of the pond were lush. Chinyu shuttled back and forth between some rocks and plants. After a short moment, Chinyu arrived behind a rock. Spreading out his spatial power, Chinyu was able to clearly see the center of the pond 100 meters away from him. At this moment, a tunnel had appeared at the center of the pond. The tunnel led deep underground. In another direction, Lu Yushi had also arrived at the center of the pond. Tanjiro walked out from the tunnel. When he saw Lu Yushi, he said coldly, "Sure enough, you've come. Merely, you've come 2 years earlier than I had expected. Although the seven-colored magnificent lotus still needs a few more years to fully mature, I was worried that there might be an error in my calculations. Thus, I came a bit earlier." Lu Yushi had a smile on his face the entire time. The scarlet-haired and scarlet-browed Tanjiro coldly snorted and said, "If you want to come in, quickly come in." After saying that, Tanjiro entered the underground tunnel again. The silver-haired and silver-browed Lu Yushi also lightly smiled. He also stepped into the underground passageway. Right after the two of them stepped into the underground passageway, Chinyu started to quietly follow them. His spatial energy also followed the underground passageway downwards. This underground passageway was several tens of meters deep, and about 80 meters below the bottom of the lake, there was an underground mansion. At this moment, Lu Yushi had also arrived below the mansion. As for Tanjiro, he pressed a certain mechanism in the mansion. Immediately, the passageway began to slowly close. It was not the door of the passageway that closed. Rather, it was the entire passageway that closed. No wonder I couldn't find it the last time I searched. Chinyu sighed inwardly. Chinyu used the power of space to search, covering an area of 100 meters, at most 1 or 2 meters underground. There was no extra space power to penetrate more than 80 to 90 meters underground. Even if Chinyu spent a few years searching, it would not be enough. 80 meters. That's enough for me to teleport over, Qingyu thought. In front of the universal world's spatial energy, the solid rocks underground were simply unable to obstruct it. Perhaps even if a high-level heavenly deity were to come, they would not be able to go down. However, Qingyu was able to. There's actually no water in this underground mansion. It's quite large. I'll go with that room. Qingyu selected a room in the underground mansion. He directly teleported and disappeared into the bottom of the lake. 80 meters below the bottom of the lake, inside the underground mansion, Qingyu was inside one of the rooms. This side room was very close to the central courtyard. It was only several tens of meters away. Being in this room, Qingyu was able to clearly hear the conversation between Tanjio and Lu Yushi. Because Lu Yushi and Tanjio were in the underground mansion, they felt that even high-level heavenly deities would not be able to sneak in. Thus, they did not have to worry about their conversation. Qinyu's spatial energy spread out and covered over half of the courtyard. Lu Yushi and Tanjio were also within the range of his spatial energy. However, neither Lu Yushi nor Tanjio detected his spatial energy at all. Lu Yushi, the seven-colored magnificent lotus, is something that we discovered together back then. Let's split it according to the method we decided on back then. 2 seven-colored magnificent lotuses. One for you and one for me. Tanjio said coldly. Hearing this, Qingyu was slightly startled. 7-colored magnificent lotus? Qingyu immediately recalled the records regarding the 7-colored magnificent lotus that he had seen in the Bewitching God Temple's precious medicine concocting books. The 7 lotus leaves of the 7-colored magnificent lotus can all be used to concoct pills. As for the core of the 7-colored magnificent lotus, merely consuming it would be able to bring a person with only a true spirit back to life. If used to concoct pills, its effects would be even greater. Qingyu was shocked in his heart. That was because in the divine realm, a medicinal pellet capable of bringing a person with only a true spirit back to life was extremely valuable. In terms of value, it surpassed mid-quality heavenly divine artifacts and approached high-quality heavenly divine artifacts. As for the core of the 7-colored magnificent lotus, it was even more precious. That was because merely consuming it would only allow one to absorb a portion of its medicinal properties. If used to concoct pills, the effects would be much better. The value of this lotus core was most definitely comparable to that of a high-quality, heavenly divine artifact, or even higher. No wonder Tanjio and Lu Yushi would value it so highly. Qingyu gasped in his heart. Although the 7-colored magnificent lotus was precious, to Qingyu, it would at the very most only attract Qinyu's attention. It was simply unable to excite Qingyu. After all, Qingyu possessed the Bewitching God Temple. There were a lot of treasures in the Bewitching God Temple. In the room where all kinds of medicinal ingredients were stored, although there were very few medicinal ingredients on the level of the 7-colored magnificent lotus, there were still several of them. So it's only for the 7-colored magnificent lotus. However, they said that there were actually 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses. This matter is truly strange. Qingyu started to frown. He remembered very clearly that the scroll recorded that the 7-colored magnificent lotus was a treasure that was born by absorbing the divine spiritual energy of the world. Every single 7-colored magnificent lotus would absorb the surrounding divine spiritual energy. How could one 7-colored magnificent lotus coexist with another 7-colored magnificent lotus? It was like a tiger in a mountain. There would only be a single tiger in every region. This 7-colored magnificent lotus was the same. For 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses to grow together, in Qinyu's logic, this was something that was simply impossible. 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses, one for you and one for me? Lu Yushi looked to Tanjio in confusion. Tanjio, when did you become this generous? With your temperament, don't you want to covet even more? Lu Yushi knew Tanjio very well. Tanjio was an extremely greedy person. When he was in the devil murder realm, he would always try his best to seize as many treasures as possible. Although the two of them had agreed to split the treasures equally, Tanjio had stayed here for countless years. Thus, Lu Yushi felt that Tanjio would definitely seize more. I want to covet even more. Are you willing to give it to me? Tanjiro snorted coldly. I'm not. Lu Yushi replied. Then it's settled. Tanjiro still had a cold and detached expression. I also know your strength very well. If the two of us were to fight, both of us would suffer. As for these 7 colored magnificent lotuses, it's just right for each of us to have one. Lu Yushi nodded with a smile on his face. Merely, the gaze with which he looked to Tanjiro was as if he was looking at a new acquaintance. You've changed quite a lot, Lu Yushi said with a light smile. Tanjiro snorted coldly. According to my estimations, the time it would take for the 7 colored magnificent lotuses to mature should be 3.5 years. At that time, you will take one 7-colored magnificent lotus, and I will take one. As you say. The smile on Lu Yushi's face was extremely brilliant the entire time. After Lu Yushi finished saying those words, he got up and rushed toward a corner of the courtyard. A portion of Qin Yu's spatial power immediately changed directions and headed toward another corner. Upon seeing this, Qin Yu discovered something strange. Wherever the spatial power went, it was as if Qin Yu had personally arrived. After all, Qin Yu was the creator of the universal world. Amen. What a cold aura. The surface of the pond is actually this cold. That pond's water seems to be unitary heavy water. A small pond of unitary heavy water. It's about the same as the golden bead I obtained from the Dark Star Realm's trial Dark Star. Qin Yu immediately focused his attention. Unitary heavy water was extremely rare. For it to be able to form such a small pond, there was most definitely a treasure in the pond. The 7-colored magnificent lotus is cold by nature. The 7-colored magnificent lotus grows on top of unitary heavy water. The amount of unitary heavy water is relatively small. It is only enough to store about half a barrel of ordinary wooden barrels. Qin Yu still remembered the large amount of records regarding the 7-colored magnificent lotus in the Golden Scroll. Ordinary wooden barrels were only half the height of a person. How much could half a barrel contain? As for this pond, its shape was close to circular. Its diameter was close to 2 meters. For such a large pond, the amount of unitary heavy water in it was likely enough to store 10 barrels of unitary heavy water. 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses just so happened to be growing at the 2 ends of the unitary heavy water. The appearance of the 7-colored magnificent lotuses was exactly the same as what was recorded in the Golden Scroll. The lotus leaves were of 7 different colors. The lotus seed head was extremely small. There was a lotus heart on it. Qin Yu was suddenly surprised. There is a small hidden illusory formation set up in the center of the pond. Qin Yu used his spatial power to investigate and discovered what exactly was in the center of the pond. It was hidden by a hidden illusory formation. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, more than 3 years had passed. During these 3 years, Lu Yushi and Tanjiro both sat cross-legged without saying a word. Qin Yu himself also sat cross-legged in the room without saying a word. Qin Yu, who was meditating, suddenly sensed a dazzling light. He immediately opened his eyes. He saw that the entire underground was covered by the dazzling 7-colored magnificent light. Qin Yu's spatial power immediately covered the unitary heavy water pond. At this moment, the 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses at the 2 ends of the pond were like 2 suns. They were emitting dazzling 7-colored magnificent light. Lu Yushi and Tanjiro both rolled to the side of the pond. Haha, it has finally fully matured. Lu Yushi's eyes were filled with joy. Only when the 7-colored magnificent lotuses emitted a 7-colored magnificent light would it signify that they had fully matured. Tanjiro also displayed a smile on his face. He immediately said, Lu Yushi, you go ahead and pick that one. I will pick this one. Compared to Lu Yushi, Tanjiro was much calmer. Lu Yushi was actually on guard against Tanjiro the entire time. He was worried that Tanjiro would suddenly launch a sneak attack to completely seize the 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses. Very well, I will pick this one. As Lu Yushi said those words, he planned to pick it. However, at this moment, the 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses suddenly started to shine brightly. 2 dazzling rays of light flew out from the 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses. Then, they gathered toward the center of the pond. As for the two seven-colored magnificent lotuses, they started to wither at a speed visible to the naked eye. The two dazzling seven-colored magnificent lights gathered in the center of the pond. The hidden illusory formation was naturally broken through. Tanjio's expression took a huge change. He muttered in disbelief. How is it? Aren't they still not fully matured? What is that? Lu Yushi's gaze immediately locked onto the center of the pond. The hidden illusory formation had already been removed. The thing inside the formation had already appeared. It was a magnificent lotus that was a size smaller than the seven-colored magnificent lotuses. Merely it possessed 9 lotus leaves. Its entire body was emitting a faint black light. Qinyu's eyes suddenly opened wide. 9-petaled magnificent lotus? That thing truly exists. At this moment, Tanjio's eyes regained clarity. As he looked to the 9-petaled magnificent lotus in the center of the pond, a trace of ruthlessness and madness flashed through his eyes. Chapter 533. The 9-petaled magnificent lotus had 9 lotus leaves. The 7-colored magnificent lotus was also known as the 7-petaled magnificent lotus. Although the 7-colored magnificent lotus was larger than the 9-petaled magnificent lotus, the 7-colored magnificent lotus only had a lotus core. On the other hand, although the 9-petaled magnificent lotus was smaller, there were 3 evenly distributed sparkling and translucent lotus seeds on the lotus head. The 3 translucent lotus seeds were milky white and emitted a faint white light. The core of the 9-petaled magnificent lotus, which was also the center of the 3 lotus seeds, was a black lotus core that was as translucent as ice. This black lotus core emitted a black light and at the same time emitted a cold aura. No wonder there are 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses. It turns out that the aura emitted by the 9-petaled magnificent lotus gave birth to 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses. This 9-petaled magnificent lotus is quite domineering. It directly absorbed the essence of the 2 7-colored magnificent lotuses and allowed them to fully mature. Qinyu finally understood the reason why the 2 rainbow magnificent lotuses grew together. At the same time, Qinyu recalled the description of the 9-petaled magnificent lotus in the Golden Scroll. The 9-petaled magnificent lotus is of a higher level than the 7-colored magnificent lotus. It is a legendary treasure. In the history of the divine world, a 9-petaled magnificent lotus had been discovered. The most precious part of the 9-petaled magnificent lotus was its lotus heart. The lotus heart was nurtured by absorbing grand mist spiritual energy, and after refining it, one could turn into a magnificent lotus avatar. The 3 lotus seeds were milky white in color. Consuming just one of them would bring one back to life. If it was refined, the effects would be even better. The 9 lotus leaves were all extremely precious medicinal ingredients. Its rhizome is also a treasure, and its value is no less than a lotus seed. Although the 9-petaled magnificent lotus was a magnificent lotus, it could be considered a grand mist spiritual treasure. Once the lotus heart is refined, it can become a magnificent lotus avatar. Qinyu's heart surged with traces of excitement. In the golden scroll left behind by the bewitching god temple, there was a detailed record of every part of the 9-petaled magnificent lotus, as well as the refining method and benefits of the magnificent lotus clone. The more he understood, the more excited Qinyu became. The 9-petaled magnificent lotus was so precious that it even surpassed ordinary second-rate grand mist spiritual treasures. Even Qinyu, who possessed the bewitching god temple, was looking forward to obtaining the 9-petaled magnificent lotus. Qinyu didn't really care about the 3 lotus seeds, 9 lotus leaves and roots. What he cared about the most was the black lotus core. Even in the divine realm, only a few of the upper echelons of the divine realm know about the 9-petaled magnificent lotus. I reckon that Tanjio and Lu Yushi still don't know about the true preciousness of the 9-petaled magnificent lotus. Qinyu shifted his attention to Lu Yushi and Tanjio. Qinyu's guess was correct. In the entire history of the divine realm, only a single 9-petaled magnificent lotus had appeared. As such, How could it possibly be something that two mid-level heavenly deities from a city like Yuchi City would know about? Even many of the high-level heavenly deities did not know about it. When Lu Yushi saw the sudden appearance of the nine-petaled magnificent lotus, he was shocked. It actually absorbed the essence of two seven-colored magnificent lotuses. It's definitely more valuable than the seven-colored magnificent lotus. 9 leaves? Could it be? Could it be the legendary nine-petaled magnificent lotus? Back then, when Lu Yushi and Tanjio discovered this place together, they had also discovered the two seven-colored magnificent lotuses that were still growing. At that time, Lu Yushi and Tanjio simply didn't know about the great name of the seven-colored magnificent lotus. Merely by seeing the unitary heavy water, they were certain that the seven-colored magnificent lotus was a treasure. Thus, Lu Yushi returned and began to investigate through his connections in Yuchi City. In the end, he managed to find a piece of information. That information carefully described the precious location of the seven-colored magnificent lotus. This caused Lu Yushi to be overjoyed. As for that information, it briefly mentioned the nine-petaled magnificent lotus. It said that above the seven-colored magnificent lotus was the legendary nine-petaled magnificent lotus. As for the uses of the various parts of the nine-petaled magnificent lotus, it was not mentioned. Neither Tanjio nor Lu Yushi knew about the uses of the various parts of the nine-petaled magnificent lotus. However, there was one thing that was absolutely certain. The nine-petaled magnificent lotus was much more important than the seven-petaled magnificent lotus. Two seven-colored magnificent lotuses. It was still easy for Tanjio and Lu Yushi to divide them. However, there was only a single nine-petaled magnificent lotus. How were they supposed to divide it? Not good. The expression of Lu Yushi, who was planning to discuss the distribution of the nine-petaled magnificent lotus with Tanjio, suddenly changed. His body was about to dodge. However, an extremely heavy strike smashed onto Lu Yushi's head. Bang! Like a rubber ball, Lu Yushi was smashed flying. He ruthlessly smashed into the courtyard stone wall. The stone wall immediately cracked. Not only were the cracks long, they were also very deep. The strange thing was that the surface of Lu Yushi's entire body started to ripple. The heavy strike to his head actually only caused his head to crack open and blood to seep out from it. Lu Yushi rushed out from the large hole in the wall with a lightning-like speed. A pair of golden gloves appeared on his hands. Tanjio's scarlet sword-like eyebrows were raised. He sneered and said, "Lu Yushi, your defense is truly powerful. Back then, when we were in the Devil Murder realm, my attack was the strongest, whereas your defense was the strongest. Even now, when faced with an all-out attack from my mid-quality heavenly divine artifact, you were only injured. Admirable, admirable. Tanjio, you actually attacked so viciously all for the sake of that nine-petaled magnificent lotus." Lu Yushi's expression was extremely ugly. From an outsider's point of view, Lu Yushi did not appear to be seriously injured. However, Lu Yushi himself knew very well that he was already extremely lucky to not have died from Tanjio's all-out sneak attack. Currently, he only had 60% of his strength remaining. Under Tanjio's scarlet eyebrows, his gloomy eyes were flickering with traces of red light. "Lu Yushi, your soul's yuanying has also been affected, right? How much strength do you have left? 50%? 60%? Haha. Lu Yushi, seeing that you and I have fought for so many years from the Devil Murder realm to the Divine realm, we also have some feelings for each other. If you leave now, I'll spare your life," Tanjio said magnanimously. Lu Yushi's expression turned ugly. His silver eyebrows were knitted together. With a deep voice he said, "Tanjio, we have always been enemies since we were still weak. Even after 10 billion years we have always been fighting. We ascended together and reached the heavenly deity level at about the same time. Right now, both you and I are mid-level heavenly deities. To be honest, I have even considered you to be my close friend in the bottom of my heart. I even have a dream. I dream that we will both become God Kings one day. That would be interesting. However, I truly never expected that for the sake of the nine-petaled magnificent lotus, you would actually launch a sneak attack on me. In all these years in the divine realm, We have also fought against each other several times. I discovered that your attacks were not ruthless at all. I had thought that after all these years, you would be like me and consider me to be your close friend. However, it would appear now. Lu Yushi's voice contained a trace of grief. Close friend. Tanjiro was startled. His expression also changed. However, Tanjiro sneered. Haha. What sort of joke are you talking about? I Tanjiro have a close friend? Humph humph. Those who obstruct me, I will eliminate them. In the past, the reason why I didn't attack you ruthlessly was because firstly, I didn't have certainty in being able to kill you. Secondly, having an opponent would allow me to progress faster. However, this time, I reckon that the 9-petaled magnificent lotus is at least as precious as a high-quality heavenly divine artifact. For it, I would naturally attack ruthlessly. Are you going to flee for your life right now? Or are you going to fight me for this treasure? Make your choice. Tanjiro said coldly. Lu Yushi, who only had 60% of his strength remaining, was still a threat to Tanjiro. If Lu Yushi was determined to die, then it was likely that Tanjiro would only be able to kill him by seriously injuring him. Lu Yushi took a couple glances at Tanjiro, nodded slightly and said, Very well, this 9-petaled magnificent lotus is yours. Let me go. In a room not far from the courtyard, Chinyu was currently watching all of this. After Chinyu learned about what had happened, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This Lu Yushi is likely thoroughly disappointed. He had originally thought that his opponent was a close friend. Who would have thought that he would attack so ruthlessly? Soon after, Chinyu calmed his state of mind. The divine spear waning snow has absorbed less than 1,000th of the dark and yellow energy. However, in order to kill Tanjiro, I can only rely on the divine spear waning snow. Chinyu had already made his preparations to attack. Even though the divine spear waning snow had absorbed less than 1,000th of the dark and yellow energy, the might of the divine spear waning snow had increased by a lot. This was something that Chinyu was able to clearly sense. The underground mansion's passageway. After Tanjiro pressed the button, the passageway leading to the bottom of the Black Dragon pool opened. Lu Yushi directly walked toward the entrance of the passageway. The entrance of the passageway was right beside Tanjiro. Right at the moment when Lu Yushi was 3 meters away from Tanjiro, Lu Yushi suddenly burst forth. His fists immediately emitted dazzling golden light. At the same moment when Lu Yushi attacked, the 9-section whip in Tanjiro's hand turned into a long rod and smashed toward Lu Yushi once again. Bang! Lu Yushi's 2 golden fists smashed onto the 9-section whip at the same time. The bodies of the 2 people trembled, and they were sent flying backwards. Coldness filled Lu Yushi's face. Tanjiro, you are truly ruthless. You simply did not want to let me go. Instead, you wanted to mount a sneak attack on me again, so that you could kill me even more easily. Am I right? Tanjiro was not embarrassed in the slightest, even though he was seen through. He sneered and said, Lu Yushi, enough of your superfluous words. I have mounted a sneak attack on you. Aren't you also mounting a sneak attack on me? Earlier, when you said that you were my close friend, I reckoned that you were lying. Lu Yushi said coldly, Before you mounted a sneak attack on me, I had thought of you as my close friend. However, the moment you mounted a sneak attack on me, I knew. Even though we had known each other for over 10 billion years, you were still as vicious and merciless as before. Thus I knew that you would definitely not let me go this time around. Thus, I wanted to mount a sneak attack on you first. Consider yourself lucky. Seeing this scene, Chinyu was unable to refrain his shock. These 2 people were truly ruthless. That Tanjiro said that he would let Lu Yushi live. So it turned out that he wanted to mount a sneak attack on Lu Yushi again. Lu Yushi did not bother with superfluous words. He rushed forward once again. As for Tanjiro, he also rushed forward with the 9-section whip in his hand. These 2 people knew each other's strength very well. Thus their attacks were extremely fast. Even without using their spatial domains, the courtyard was actually not damaged at all. With his spatial power, Chinyu was able to clearly sense the astonishing strength of the 2 people in close combat. Wherever the 9-section whip and the boxing gloves passed by, the space in that area would be completely distorted. The two people's heavenly divine power and power were completely condensed on their weapons. Their attacks were extremely frantic. Pow! 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 Lu Yushi's body would be struck by the strange 9-section whip from time to time. However, Lu Yushi's skin would occasionally undulate like ripples and easily block the attacks. His defense was truly abnormal. Several tens of afterimages appeared in the courtyard. It was as if several tens of Tanjios were fighting against several tens of Lu Yushi. In an instant, they had exchanged blows over 100 times. If this close combat continues, how long will it take for it to end? Qingyu sighed in his heart. However, right at the moment when Qingyu was sighing in admiration, Qingyu's expression suddenly changed. Clones. That's right. Tanjio had suddenly created 2 clones. Due to the fact that the 2 of them were fighting too fast, they had created so many afterimages. With 2 additional Tanjios, if one were to use their eyes, it would be impossible to distinguish them. Both Qingyu and Lu Yushi had discovered the 2 clones. The 2 clones immediately rushed toward Lu Yushi. Like 2 madmen, they surrounded Lu Yushi from both sides. One could only hear, boom. It was as if several hundred heavenly thunders had exploded beside one's ears. A portion of the entire underground mansion had started to collapse. Qingyu was hiding in a corner of the house. A pillar above his head smashed into the ground beside him. However, Qingyu did not pay attention to it at all. His attention was completely focused on the courtyard. This Tanjio is truly ruthless. He actually detonated 2 of his clones. Qingyu was extremely shocked. Tanjio's 9 clones could all be considered as his true body. To lose 2 of his clones all at once, he had truly made a great decision. You're still not dead? Tanjio's cold voice sounded. In the courtyard, Lu Yushi was kneeling on one knee. His body was covered with blood. He was coldly looking at Tanjio, who was before him. Tanjio, could it be that you're vainly trying to kill me with only 2 clones? Have you forgotten that my strongest point is my defense? A mocking smile appeared on Tanjio's cold face. While his defense was indeed powerful, the self-detonation of his 2 clones had caused Lu Yushi's injuries to become even more serious. Roar! Lu Yushi suddenly raised his head and roared. Rays of light began to shine from his head. Immediately, the space within the entire courtyard seemed to have frozen. Tanjio's expression also changed. Let's die together. Madness flickered through Lu Yushi's eyes. Tanjio knew very well that at this moment, Lu Yushi had ignited his soul yuanying. Soul yuanying was the material form of one's soul power. The amount of energy it possessed was truly astonishing. The energy of soul yuanying immediately erupted. His divine awareness immediately reached its strongest state. His control over his spatial domain also became even stronger. At the same time, Lu Yushi unleashed his final, hysterical divine awareness attack at Tanjio. Divine awareness was one's soul power. One's soul power was capable of attacking one another. Merely this sort of attack was akin to harming one's own soul power. Unless one was determined to die, one would not use this sort of attack. Ah! Tanjio roared angrily. In an instant, he turned into 7 clones. At the same time, 3 of his clones started to shine. Even their heads started to shine. Those 3 clones directly rushed toward Lu Yushi. It was extremely difficult to refine clones in the divine realm. The reason why Tanjio was able to possess 9 clones was because he possessed 9 heads. This also allowed him to turn into 9 souls. Only clones that possessed souls could be considered as true clones. When the first 2 clones exploded, Tanjio had retrieved the souls of the 2 clones. However, for these 3 clones, he had ignited the souls of the 3 clones. Ah! Madness filled Lu Yushi's eyes. As for the 3 clones, their eyes were also filled with madness. An explosion even louder than before sounded. Boom! Mid-level heavenly deity Lu Yushi and the 3 Tanjio clones were all annihilated. At the same time, an even more serious collapse occurred in the underground mansion. The entire underground mansion was in a complete mess. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.